between the two men.
All right, we're here. Jarek and I are back to cover the VP debate. Here we go, folks. We're here. We're ready. Let's do it.
This is likely the final.
What's like the NBC football?
Dun 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 dun. Boom boom boom.
And then you just see like in the background JD Vance just like tightening his suit and like
he's warming up. He's warming up.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be kind of lived up for this one. I'm not gonna lie to you, because Tim Walz is kind of him. So
I love Tim Walz. He's gonna. I honestly think he's gonna be president soon.
Well, that's the goal, right? You be VP, and then you lock up the next two, and you're good for the next 15 years.
But if JD Vance becomes president, Jesus Christ.
He has no way. I think his career is already cooked, even if Trump wins.
Oh, they're standing. They're standing.
Oh, they are standing. They're not sitting.
For tonight's CBS
No audience.
Vice presidential debate. We want to welcome our viewers on CBS, on other networks here in the U.S. and around the world. We have a consequential night ahead, and our focus
ready,
is the
folks.
issues that matter to you. The
All right,
voters.
first question is going to be on the economy. Calling it. Bank it.
Tim Walz and Ohio's Republican Senator J.D. Vance tonight.
Wait, J.D. Vance is taller? What the fuck?
Alright, this is awkward.
I'm Margaret Brennan.
I think they were supposed to cut.
And civil debate. These are the rules that both campaigns have agreed to.
Can you turn up the debate?
Will
Yeah.
be directed at one candidate.
It's up
who
all
will
the way,
have 2
isn't it?
minutes to respond. The other
can
candidate
bump
will
it
be
up more
allowed
if we
2
need to.
minutes for rebuttal. Then each candidate will get another minute to make further points, with an additional 1 minute each at the discretion of the moderator. The primary role of the moderators is to facilitate the debate between
Is that
the
good? Let me know if
candidates,
that's good.
Enforce the rules.
It's always
and
tough when you
provide
have
the candidates with
this
the
many people
opportunity
talking.
to
It is what it
fact-check
is.
Claims made by each other.
CBS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones to maintain decorum. We have not
Alright, we already
shared
know the rules.
questions
Can
or
we-
topics with
we
the
get going here?
campaigns.
Can we do a
The
coin
stage
toss?
is
Who's
set.
kicking? Who's
Governor,
receiving?
Senator, thank you for joining us. Let's get started.
Economy.
Tonight, our country is facing several unfolding crises. The Middle East is on the brink of war.
Oh, okay. I like this.
Americans are suffering from the catastrophic impact of Hurricane Helene. And now a labor strike as 25,000
We didn't even talk about the
dock
labor
workers
strike. Oh, I
in
should have
Maine
mentioned
to
that.
Texas are picketing. We're going to begin tonight.
There's like
with
550
the Middle East. Margaret.
million people
Thank
or
you,
whatever.
Laura.
25,000, yeah.
Earlier today, Iran launched its largest attack yet on Israel, but that attack failed.
Isn't real.
Thanks to joint
I wonder
US
what their
and
point of
Israeli
view is gonna
defensive
be.
Action. President Biden has deployed more than 40,000
Say free
US
Palestine.
military
Walz.
personnel
Be a
and
hero.
assets to
Go
that
against
region
terrorists.
over the past year to try to prevent a regional war.
Say free
Iran
Palestine.
is weakened, but the U.S. still considers it the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it has drastically reduced the time it would take to develop a nuclear weapon. It
No.
is down
Devin.
now to
I'm trying to
1
drag the
or 2
closed
weeks'
captions and they
time.
keep putting it back in the middle.
Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Jesus.
Well, thank you, and thank you for those joining at home.
Hell
tonight.
yeah, brother. We're bombing
let's
the
keep
shit
in
out of
mind
them.
where this started. October 7th, Hamas
Oh my
terrorists
Oh,
God.
no, Walz.
massacred
L.
over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely
Iran's
fundamental.
ability to
Getting
defend
its,
itself? Pro-Iran?
hostages back,
Let's go.
fundamental. And
Could you
Yeah,
imagine?
I think he looks
humanitarian
nervous. He
crisis
does look
in
nervous.
It's okay. It's okay.
Gaza.
It's the first question.
But
First question.
The expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You saw it experienced today, where along with our
JD Vance is going to say the exact same
partners,
thing,
able
but
to
way
stop
more
the
fascistly.
incoming,
Watch.
attack.
It's like,
But
yeah,
what's
we got to
fundamental
bomb
here is
Iran.
that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks
What's up,
ago.
Mom? What's up,
A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about
Recorder
crowd
Master.
sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense and his national security advisors said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together.
Yeah, because Biden was doing
He's doing a great job right now.
When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin.
See, this is not going to resonate, I don't think, with anybody who's actually gives a shit. I feel like this isn't. This is just the Kamala's response from the last debate. And we just watched that, where he rewatched it, but
we will protect our forces and our allied forces.
This is almost word for word the same.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, the same question.
You're at the debate.
Would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Hell yeah.
So, Margaret, I want to answer the question. First of all, thanks, Governor. Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate. And thanks, most importantly, to the American people who are watching this evening and caring enough about this country to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are.
I'm the loser that everyone bullied in high school.
I know who Tim Walz is. I don't know who you are.
My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me, and she raised me in part because my own mother struggled with addiction.
Like no one cares about your family, dude.
Life. I went to college.
I hope he runs out of
time
after
I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get
what are you going to do?
In the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember
your time is up.
That as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid
even though he
of
kind
stepping
of
out of line. Iran,
pushed,
which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion.
He gave more power to Israel.
Unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration.
But
what do they use that money for? They use it to
US
buy
president
weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people
yes,
to
Iran's going to launch
States,
missiles at the United States.
They needed to recognize
that's going to happen.
that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer
unless they're talking about U.S. bases in the area, which is a whole other thing.
They need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, do you care to respond to
we're going to fight the bad guys, folks.
Well, look, Donald Trump was in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership. And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump. And when Iranian missiles
Vance is like,
did fall near U.S. troops, and they received traumatic brain injuries,
fickle leadership,
Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were repelled. Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Senator Vance,
I don't like the word when he keeps saying steady leadership.
Deal with Iran to temporarily pause parts of its nuclear program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He recently said, just 5 days ago, the U.S. must now make a diplomatic deal with Iran because the consequences are impossible. Did he make a mistake? You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blamed Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once
peace
before.
Through
Ask
strength.
Yep. When was the last
we have
time,
more guns,
old,
more bombs, no one will mess with us.
President didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to. Nora?
Margaret, thank you.
You're the one who asked him to talk. What do you mean we have a lot to get to? You're the one who gave him the opportunity to respond.
160 people are dead and hundreds more
Vance's
eyeliner
isn't prominent tonight.
Climate change makes these
honestly, for October 1st, he should have been more goth. Like, that would have been kind of cute.
More deadly because
a little
of the
black lipstick on.
rainfall. Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7
his
in
base,
10 Americans,
his base would have tore him
more
up.
than
But
60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration have?
Well, there's 40% who are right.
So this is what we're going to do. We're going to burn more fossil fuels.
So first of all, let's start with the hurricane, because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy.
I'm pretty sure Donald Trump said to nuke a hurricane before.
Of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people.
Interesting. Vance is doing a
one as robust and
he's being against them, but he's trying to do like the polite politician right now, where he's like, oh, I don't hate him. I don't hate my.
He's trying to be like Obama a little bit.
In Appalachia, all across the Southeast, they need.
I don't see Obama, but I just see like him trying. He's trying to be like not as divisive as Trump is.
The government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns.
Wait, so you believe it? Hold on. He believes it?
Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird
science. A good chunk of it definitely does.
Well, if you believe that, what would you want to do?
I think J.D. Vance has a lot of confidence right now. It's really strange.
As possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world.
Oh my God!
Harris's policies actually led to more energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some.
We're actually the cleanest
of the entire world.
Even if that was true, it's not. But even if
we were, they're doing per unit of
that means we don't got to change anything. Everyone else has got to change.
About getting cleaner air and cleaner water.
It's not our responsibility.
The best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Somehow that's going to resonate with like a working class person, unfortunately.
Are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane, and my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together to all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover, but we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance has said that there's a climate problem in the past. Donald Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act, has created jobs all across the country. 2,000 in Jeffersonville, Ohio, taking the EV technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000
EV cars aren't going to be the only solution, though.
Manufacturing plant.
Because not everyone's going to be able to buy an electric car, one. And if you could, there's still a lot of other emissions
500-year floods back to back.
That mostly corporations are doing,
and this
specifically
to tell me,
oil,
look, I harvest corn, I harvest
gas,
soybeans, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the
clean coal, say fucking clean coal.
Continue to move forward. That climate change is real.
God
Reducing
damn.
our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming an energy superpower for the future, not just
we're doing like the most bare minimum ass job, and we're like we're acting like we just aced the final test in school. You know what I mean? It's like
I want to give you an opportunity.
I'm just showing up to
The governor
class
mentioned
and acting
that
like
President
I
Trump has called climate change
yeah,
a hoax.
aced the
Do you
final.
agree?
Well, look, what the president has said is that if the Democrats, in particular Kamala Harris and her leadership, if they really believe that climate change is serious, what they would be doing is more manufacturing and more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly, Kamala Harris herself doesn't believe her own rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean energy, I think that's a slogan that often the Democrats will use here. And I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels.
The economy
dirtier?
Bro, what?
A lot of them are
I don't give a fuck where it's from. Goddamn, just
components
put something better up. I don't care.
If you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past.
Oh, here you go, David. Here's your
gas.
go vote for J.D. Vance.
Kamala Harris has done the opposite. That's raised energy prices and also meant that we're doing worse by the climate.
Yes, we should make more our own self-sufficient energy.
Tim Walz has to, like, he's got to get more reds right now because he's not.
Oil, but the folks know, and like I said again, these are not liberal folks. These are not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are farmers that have been drought one year, massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense. Look, our #1 export cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota, we're starting to weatherproof some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we make sure that we're protecting lakefronts and things that we're seeing more and more of?
See, you're just reacting.
And to take
both of them are not being proactive, in my opinion. Like,
nobody's giving a solution. Nobody's giving a solution.
We're just like, we need more American energy. It's like, cool, great. What kind of energy? And they just don't say, because the answer is gas and oil. They don't give a fuck. Yeah, we'll build a couple. Basically, Democrats are, we'll build a couple solar panels. Then the Republicans are like, we won't build any solar panels. That's the difference, it feels like.
The U.S.-Mexico border consistently ranks as one of the top issues.
Well, yes, we're doing, like I said, infrastructure law passed is good, but I feel like it's like the bare minimum, and Democrats act like they fucking solved it, it feels like sometimes.
And to use the U.S. military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this will work?
Like, I think we need to be more quicker, because climate change is already here doing things. It needs to be a dramatic shift, in my opinion, in infrastructure.
On U.S. soil. You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that she wanted to undo all of Donald Trump's border policies.
Good.
That's not true.
I wish.
Suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country.
The border is just wide open right now.
And has gotten
I know, we still got to go visit.
I don't want people who are struggling with addiction.
I want to walk into Mexico and then come back in, just like
Harris
that.
Let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations, and that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do?
We are deporting
people. We've got 20, 25 million illegal aliens who are here in
under
the country.
Trump, everyone's getting
deported. I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants.
Like, yes,
about 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers. A lot of people
good
will
luck
go home
convincing your
Republican less than minimum wage in our own country.
Farmers
and by the way, that'll be
that.
really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing.
You ain't
going to
get no wine in California.
Is you ask about family separation.
You start doing
right
that
now, in this country, Margaret.
Nothing.
We have 310 than 20,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember, when she came into office, she said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Has it changed? It's only gotten worse.
Do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president
please.
is, quote,
Lock
in fentanyl?
Tim, you have to wake up here. Let's go.
As drug mules,
show some energy. Come on now.
Yeah, well, the drug mule is not true, but I will say about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history. 30% decrease in Ohio, but there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the largest state and a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this, and that is the United States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Lankford. I know him, he's
so
super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation.
Why even have two parties at this point?
Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the
because they would never do the opposite. You know what I mean? Like, the Republicans would never go to the other way.
1,500 new border agents.
That's what Republicans are good at.
Detection for drugs.
Not caving.
DOJ money to speed up these the adjudications on this, just what America wants. But as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle this, Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It gives him to, what would Donald Trump talk about if we actually did some of these things? And they need to be done by the legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch.
Crazy how the Democratic Party has gotten this bad with border.
He had 4 years to do this, and he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it.
It's a name
Less
dropping
than
mom
2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But here we are again, 9 years after he came down that escalator, dehumanizing people and telling him what he was going to do. As far as the deportation
and that's
plan,
why we worked with the
Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
They dehumanize people at the border, and that's why we're making more police.
Will you separate parents from their children, even if their kids are U.S. citizens? You have 1 minute.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris of inviting drug mules. I said that she enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country. And we know that they use children as drug mules, and it is a disgrace, and it has to stop.
Yet.
Look, I think what Tim said just doesn't pass
he's
the
doing
smell
very
test.
well,
For
to be
3
honest.
years, Kamala Harris went out bragging that
Not
she
saying
was
I agree
going
with
to
him, but
undo
he's
Donald Trump's border
this
policy.
guy.
She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when she became the vice president, when she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America.
This problem
Parents who can't afford
is leading to
schools that are
problems.
overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, what about our CBS News polling, which does show that a majority of Americans, more than 50%, support mass deportations?
Look, we fix this issue with a bill that is necessary, but the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it. And we saw this, and Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true, don't do it. There's consequences for this. There's consequences. We could come together. Senator Lankford did it. We could come together and solve this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send state law enforcement to escort kindergartners to school. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, but by standing with Donald Trump
don't.
and not working
don't
together
think he
to find a
does.
solution, it becomes a talking point. And when it becomes a talking point like this, we dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
All right, he cooked there. He cooked.
Governor, your
Yeah,
time
he
is
was
up.
right.
Senator, I'll give you 1 minute, but let me just ask you the question
JD
first.
Vance, no, he cooked.
The governor has made the point, and I think
right, maybe Walz
as
is
a sitting
warming up
lawmaker,
here?
you know that Congress
No,
controls
about
the
time.
purse strings and any funding. So you have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would, through executive action, solve this. Do you disagree?
Yeah, he's got to do more baits
that
like
Congress
Kamala
controls the
did.
purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Look, Margaret, first of all, the gross majority of what we need to do at the southern
Look,
border
Margaret,
is just empowering law enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our borders are. Kamala Harris has been, and it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help.
The Border Patrol's
Most of
just
this is
crying
about the president
every day.
and the vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across the border illegally, you've got to stay in Mexico, you've got to go back through proper channels. Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in Springfield. Look, in Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed.
Cats and dogs are getting
You've
eaten.
got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants.
How are the illegal immigrants affording the houses to drive up the prices? Are you kidding me? Who believes that? Yes, these people who are supposedly like down on their luck, you know, criminals and stuff, somehow are able to go buy a house willy-nilly.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this, and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about
he's
to the
cooking.
least of these,
He's gonna
do unto
cook.
me. I think that's true of most Americans.
JD Vance gonna lose the religious vote here.
It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it.
The Catholic
and it lets
vote.
us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
JD Vance won't be able to drop a fucking proverb. He won't be able to do it, dude, because he doesn't read the Bible.
Number of Haitian migrants.
Tim Walz wants to give out
Tim Walz goes to
people.
church, dude. Tim Walz goes to church.
But
Tim Walz is a lover.
So much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important
We're
because
going to turn now to the economy.
JD's mad.
The rules were that you guys
He didn't
were
like
going to
that.
fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card, and waiting for 10 years.
I can't believe they let him talk.
Legal immigration.
They should be like, no, you're done,
Thank you,
dude.
Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so
Kamala
much to get to, Senator.
Dude, the moderators are
Been
good
on the books
cuss.
since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We want to
CBP
have
One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created.
I love how they're still. I like how the mics still pick it up.
Because your mics are
Oh no, we
We
can.
have
We
so
can
much
hear
we
you.
want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process. Nora?
Thank you, Margaret. The economy
Nora did
is
not
a top
eat, yep.
concern for voters. Each of your campaigns has released
That
an
was
economic
good.
plan,
That was
so let's
good.
talk about the specifics. Governor Walz, Vice President Harris unveiled
Now
a
we're
plan that
cooking. Now
includes
the debate's
billions in
cooking.
tax credits for manufacturing, housing, and a
They're
renewed
being too
child
nice
tax
to each
credit.
other.
The Wharton
Yeah, we need
School
some
says your
blood to be
proposals
spilled.
will increase the nation's deficit
Come on, I wanna
by
hear the couch.
$1.2 trillion.
Bring up the couch.
How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come from. We both grew up in that. We understand. So
Nah,
those of you
I
out there
can't,
listening tonight, you're hearing a lot of stuff back and forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed to happen. You should be listening. How's this going to impact me? The bold forward plan that Kamala Harris put out there is talking about this housing issue. The one thing is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan with down payment assistance on the front end to get
This
you
is
a house.
new.
A
I haven't
house
heard this
is
one.
much more than just an asset to be traded somewhere.
I don't know if she said 3 million houses specifically.
And then making sure that the things you buy every day, whether they be prescription drugs or other things, that there's fairness in that. Look, the $35 insulin is a good thing, but it costs $5 to make insulin. They were charging $800 before this law went into effect.
Good, make it free.
As far as the housing goes, I've seen it in Minnesota. 12% more houses in Minneapolis, prices went down on rent 4%. It's working. And then making sure tax cuts go to the middle class. $6,000 child tax credit, we have one in Minnesota, reduces childhood poverty by 1/3. We save money in the long run, and we do the right thing for
explains
families.
this way
and then
more
getting
better.
businesses off the ground. The law as
Sorry.
it stands right now
Way
is
better, yeah.
$5,000
Yeah.
tax credit for small
Then-
business, increasing that to $50,000.
Kamala right
This
now.
is a philosophical difference between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks to Mar-a-Lago, said, you're rich as hell, I'm going to give you a tax cut. He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to the top guys.
Wow, that ad
What
is
happened,
kicking in
though, was
now.
an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever. Now he's proposing a 20% consumption or sales tax on everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses, it would be destabilizing it, it would increase inflation and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you. Where are we going? Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do, we'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share. When you do that, our system works best, more people are participating in it, and folks have the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond
All right,
on
he's
that. But
I
similarly,
think
the
he's
Wharton
in
School has
now.
done an
He was
analysis
warming
of
up
the
the first
Trump
couple questions,
plan
but he's
and
Yeah.
says it
he's
would
bringing out
increase
the riz
nation's
now.
deficit by
JD looks a
5.8
little-
trillion.
And he's explaining
My
things
question
well,
is the same
even if
for
you don't agree with him.
How do you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Balloons.
First of all, you're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer. A lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala
okay.
Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies, and what she's
They always,
actually done
no matter who's
instead is
losing,
drive the cost of food
or like who's
higher
trying
by
to beat the
25%,
incumbent, uses
drive
this
the cost
argument.
of
Well, why
housing
didn't they do it while they were in
higher by
office? I'm like,
60%.
yes,
Open the
that's
American
like
southern
how all of
border and
politics
make
works.
middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans.
a weak
If
argument
Kamala Harris
because
has such
it's
great
correct,
plans
but, like,
for how to address middle-class
could say
Everyone
that-
uses
then
it.
she
Yeah.
ought to do them now, not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's also a record. A lot
Well,
of
it's a
those same
concept of
economists
plans.
attack Donald Trump's plans, and they have PhDs, but they don't have common sense and they don't have wisdom. Because Donald Trump's economic policies
Known
to deliver
PhD
the
holders
highest
don't have common
take-home
sense.
pay in a
Donald
generation
Trump's
in this
economic
country,
plan is literally Reagan's plan,
1.5% inflation,
but on
and to boot,
steroids.
peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I say look at the record. He delivered rising take-home pay for American workers.
Yeah,
Now,
I missed my
Tim
dollar
admirably
gas.
admits that they want to
During
undo the Trump
COVID,
tax
when
cuts.
no one
But
was
if you look
driving.
at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous Republican tax cut plans, is that a lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay to middle-class and working-class Americans. It was passed in 2017.
Concept of plans
and
that
you
may
saw an
possibly
American
probably
economic
happen.
boom
Right.
unlike we've seen in a
He's not
generation in this
president right
country.
now.
That is a record that I'm proud to run on, and we're going to get back to that common sense wisdom so that you can afford to live the American dream again. I know a lot
Which
of you are
is
struggling. I know a
going
lot
to
of you are worried about
Costco
paying the
and then
bills.
working
It's
my
gonna stop
60
when
hours a
Donald
week,
Trump
then watching
brings back
football
common
on
sense to this
Sundays.
country.
That's all I
Governor, do you want
care
to respond
about.
to that? What has Kamala Harris done for the middle
Yeah,
class?
well, Kamala Harris's day one was Donald Trump's failure on COVID that led to the collapse of our economy. We were already before
Took
COVID
'em.
in a manufacturing recession, but 10 million people out of work, largest percentage since the Great Depression. 9 million jobs closed on that. That was day one. Whether it was the Infrastructure Act or other things we moved. Now, you made a question about experts, said this. I've made a note of this. Economists can't be trusted. Science can't be trusted. National security folks
Oh
can't
my
be
God,
trusted.
Tim.
Look, if you're going to be president, you don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he does. My pro tip of the day is this. If you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing
my
goes with this.
God.
And I ask you out there, teachers, nurses, truck drivers, or whatever. How is it fair that you're
I'm
paying
getting
your
goosebumps.
taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years? And the last year as president. That's what's wrong with the system. There's a way around it.
JD,
and he's
you're
bragged
fucked,
about
man.
that. We're just asking
Oh,
for
he's on
fairness in
fire
it,
right now.
and that's all you want.
Nothing but net right now.
Governor, you say trust the experts. But those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base
dude,
off
my
to other
doctor
countries, to Mexico and
was the
elsewhere,
guy
it would
who
make the
said,
middle class
yo, we
stronger.
should be buying
They
stuff
were
from
wrong
China.
about that.
Yeah,
they
that
were
guy.
wrong about the idea that if we made
My
America less
doctor
self-reliant,
specifically
less
is having a meeting
productive in
with
our
other
own nation, that it would
doctors to be
somehow
like,
make us better off, and they were wrong
let's get
about
more
it.
shit from
And for
China.
the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus, we're not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff.
That's
And this
such a
isn't just an
stretch of a
economic
comment.
issue,
That's so
but
crazy
I've got
he
three
said that.
beautiful little kids at home, 7, 4, and 2, and I love them very much, and I hope they're in bed right now. But look,
Yeah, because they want to see how
the pharmaceuticals
embarrassing
that we put in the
this
bodies of our
is.
children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop, and we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your time is up. Governor Walz, can you address that? I mean, voters say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
Well, if you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look, I'm a union guy on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I understand that, look, we produce soybeans and corn. We need to have fair trading partners. That's something that we believe in. I think the thing that most concerns me
Right,
on
just
this
say that's
is
a better
Donald
answer.
Trump
Just like,
was the
yes,
guy
we're going to have
who
to trade with
created the
China. Like,
largest
this is
trade
how the
deficit
world
in
works.
American history with China. So the rhetoric is good. Much of what the senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched it to my communities, and we talked about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas.
Oh my God.
We're in agreement that we bring those home.
Tim,
The issue is Donald Trump is
calm
talking about
down.
it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
appreciate
JD.
that. So,
What if he was like, yeah, go ahead,
Walz just
pussy,
did
or
is he said,
something
first of
like
all,
that?
Donald Trump has to listen to
He
the
just gets
experts.
really
And then when
toxic
he
all of a
acknowledges the
sudden.
experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job.
And Walz
as
looks
the
like he's going
CEO
to kill him, dude.
that he did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens.
I mean,
was
more like Joe
raised by a
Biden,
woman
but
who
But
would
even then,
sometimes
it's like
go into
part of that's because of
medical debt
COVID
so that she could
and
put
companies
food on the
wanting
table
more
in her
money to
household.
compensate for
I know
the
what it's like to
getting not
be
enough
able to afford the
of
things that you
a
need to afford.
income that
We
they,
can do
or
so
sorry,
much
profit
better.
that
To all
they
of
didn't
you
get during
watching,
COVID.
We can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back
just
to common
capitalism
sense
doing
economic
capitalism.
principles.
I hope we have a conversation on healthcare then.
Senator, Governor.
Please.
Thank you. Margaret?
We have a lot to get to.
He hates
Tim
women.
Walz is angry.
That's my health.
Many
His
topics,
healthcare
but
policies
right
like
now I
he
want
hates
to talk
women.
about
So
personal qualifications. The vice president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you about your leadership qualities.
one of the
Governor
questions should be,
Walz,
what do VPs
you
actually
said
do?
you were in Hong Kong during the deadly
Literally.
Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But
What?
Minnesota Public Radio and other media
Tiananmen
outlets are
Square.
reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year.
Oh, he's getting called a
Can you
liar?
explain that
Oh, wait, good
discrepancy?
good media
And
reporting
for
here?
folks out
Hold
there
on.
who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of.
What is- I've
400.
never heard of this.
You rode your bike with
Yeah,
your
I don't know
buddies
what
till
he's
the street
talking-
lights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first
So
year,
were
I
you
got
at
the
Tiananmen
opportunity
Square or
in
not? Is that
summer
what the
of
question
89,
was?
to travel
Yeah.
to China.
Hold on.
35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and forth to China. The issue for that was to try and learn. Now look, my community knows who I am. They saw where I was at. They look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people.
Well, you going to China doesn't make you a bad person. What the fuck?
Years.
Kind of,
and in Congress,
is that what the question
is?
is?
Bipartisan people.
Oh, discrepancies in your trip. Yeah, they're saying he did go to Tiananmen Square, or wasn't at Tiananmen Square.
And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So
Yeah,
what a weird question in a vice presidential debate.
To make sure that I'm there for the people.
Yeah, what does this have to do with JD Vance? I mean, I appreciate they're asking a probing question.
Many times.
Okay, let's ask JD Vance to see he had sex with the couch.
In the rhetoric, but being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID, and I guarantee you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community, and then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier, or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
Okay, so I think
I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Okay, so I think,
Governor.
yeah, he must have said something that he was at Tiananmen Square during during
What a dumb
the
question, but not important right now.
During the protest.
And you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've said
yes, let's go.
And you've said you regret those comments.
That's right.
You then voted for Donald Trump in 2020.
Forgot about this.
But the Washington Post reported new messages last week in which you also disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president.
Oh my God.
Quote,
now this is a
Trump
question.
thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism. You're now his running mate. And you've shifted
I wonder what he's going to say.
Stances to align
How much
with
is he going to suck his dick on live television?
Why should Americans trust that you will give Donald Trump the
Real call-out
advice
post for
he
each of them.
needs to hear?
Yeah, I would rather be
and
in
not just the advice
Walz's
he wants to hear.
shoes right
you
now.
have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've always been open. And sometimes, of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all,
you literally called him Hitler.
Some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American
Vance
people.
undercover Kamala
rising
special
wages,
agent.
rising take-home pay,
Maybe.
an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak,
I'm
when you
hoping
get
Trump
something
dies
wrong,
in office
and you change your mind, you
while
ought to
I'm
be honest with the
VP, so I
American
can
people about
say
it.
I
One
was
of the reasons,
president.
Margaret, why I've done so many interviews is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people where I come down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out the messages from 2020. Margaret, I've been extremely consistent that I think there were a lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration the first round if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States Senator, that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China,
so do you still think Donald Trump's Hitler?
You're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up for itself.
Extremely wrong.
You're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
You went from being
Senator,
Hitler to
your
actually
time is
Jesus.
up. Nora?
Thank you. Now to the issue of reproductive rights.
Here we go.
Governor
It's
Walz,
over.
after
All right,
Roe
this
versus
is
Wade was
all right.
overturned,
Everyone watch a
signed
live.
bill
This is
into
a live
law
execution
that made
going to happen right
Minnesota
here.
one of the least restrictive states in the nation when it comes to abortion. Former President Trump said in the last debate that you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Yes or no?
insane.
Is that what you support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says, but look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind. Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade, 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane. She needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children.
Insane.
Or in Kentucky, Hadley Duvall, a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said, 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right in this. So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look, this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business.
Oh, it's so over for Jamie.
And the catch-all on this is, well, the states will decide what's right for Texas might not be right for Washington. That's not how this works. This is basic human right. We have seen maternal mortality.
It is a crazy thing to like be like,
in Texas.
What works in Texas?
Outpacing
Abortions,
many other countries in the world.
They are thing in
this
Texas.
is about healthcare. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in healthcare for a reason. We trust
We
women.
hate women
we
in
trust
Texas.
doctors.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
Let's hear it, JD. What do you got?
No, Nora, certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic. And, you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies because they feel like they didn't have any other options. And, you know, one of them is actually very dear to me. And I know she's watching tonight, and I love you. And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect innocent life in this country, who proudly wants to protect the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms to afford to have babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home.
And that's
so
why
they
we
can afford a
don't
place
support
to
raising
raise
the
that
minimum
family.
wage.
And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give
We'll
women
never cancel
more
student loan
options.
debt.
Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy
And we're the most
specifically, that
anti-union
we have a big country and it's diverse. And California
possibly
has a
be.
different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the proper way to handle this, as messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their
and every
abortion
time they
policy.
have, it has been
and I
passed.
think that's what
so
makes
I
the
think
most
that
sense
don't.
in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest,
the state
sometimes
laws.
a very, very messy and divided country.
Governor, would you like to respond and also answer
No,
the question
answer the
about
question.
restrictions?
Yeah, well, the question got asked, and Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. The fact of the matter is, how can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body, is determined on geography? There's a very real chance that Amber Thurman lived in Minnesota, she would be alive today. That's why the restoration of Roe versus Wade. When you listen to Vice President Harris talk about this subject and you hear me talk about it, you hear us talking exactly the same. Donald Trump is trying to figure out how to get the political right of this. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Yeah, they were
Governor, your
literally.
time is up. Senator, let me ask you about that. He mentioned, it was, I think, referring to a national ban. In the past, you have supported a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world. My question is, why have you changed your position?
Oh my God.
Well, Nora, first of all,
Because
I never
we're losing
supported a
votes,
national
and,
ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting
Right,
some
if you're
minimum
born into
national
a state,
standard. For example,
sometimes
we
you
have a
can't even
partial birth
leave.
abortion
I also like
ban
I like the word
in place in this
regime.
country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that, or at least I hope not. Though I know that Democrats have taken a very radical pro-abortion stance. But Nora, you know, one of the things that changed is in the state of Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted overwhelmingly, by the way, against my position. And I think that what I learned from that, Nora, is that we've got to do a better job at winning back people's trust. So many young women would love to have families. So many young women also see an unplanned pregnancy as something that's going to destroy their livelihood, destroy their education, destroy their relationships. And we have got to.
And how many kids have you adopted,
and that's
Vance?
why Donald Trump and I are committed to pursuing.
That's the easiest way you can snap back at anyone who talks like this. By the way, just be like, so how many kids have you adopted?
A better job at that, and that's what real leadership is.
Governor, your response.
I'm going to respond on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We know what the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages, women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota.
This whole debate is just basically, science versus.
We understand that too.
I don't believe in science. I don't trust doctors versus I trust doctors.
We also make it.
And he's hammering it home right now.
For the best place to raise children.
This whole debate.
But these two things to try and say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this, or you guys are pro-abortion, that's not the case at all. We are pro-freedoms for women to make their choices, and we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case, to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax credit, but we're not going to base that on the backs of making someone like
I want JD Vance to shave his beard.
600 miles to try and get help.
He looked like a baby.
Senator.
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was.
Including all the babies that were aborted.
Disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion. That is, I think, whether you're pro-choice or pro-abortion, that is fundamentally barbaric.
And doctors love that. They love killing babies, let me tell you.
What we've seen. Do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country.
He's getting the Catholic nun vote, folks, right here.
Almost doing the nuns.
Please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition. These are women's decisions to
There's
make
always these made-up
healthcare
hypotheticals.
and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it at all.
What was I wrong about, Governor? Please tell me. What was I wrong about?
That is not the way the law is written. Look, I've given I've given this advice on a lot of things that getting
how?
That's been miswritten. It was
let him speak.
The last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or
doctors don't take oaths to save every life possible or anything, right? Like that's
on this. Things work best.
Literally the first thing they do in medical school.
When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best. That doesn't preclude us from increasing funding for children. It doesn't increase us from making sure that once that child's born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other things when you're not proposing them in your budget. Kamala Harris is proposing them. She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true. That's not what the law says. So they fact check.
Katie, shut the fuck up.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss. We have to move on.
I want him to call him like a slur, like, or not a slur, but just like cuss him out. Be like, you fucking idiot. Just like I want Like, it would lose votes for sure, but it would also gain votes, I think. That would go so viral.
What is JD saying? What is he saying?
I don't know.
He was saying something.
All right, hold on. We have...
The House will be in order.
I have to pee. 1 second. Go say your prediction. Or your...
No. Truthsocial.com. I hope this is the website. I gotta create an account. /user/Trump. I don't know how it works. Yeah, why doesn't Truth Social Donald Trump be the first thing that pops up? Oh, right here. It wasn't popping up before. Oh my God, he's writing in all caps. Everyone knows I would not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and would in fact veto it. But it's up to the states to decide based on the will of the voters, the will of the people, in parentheses. Like Ronald Reagan, before me, I fully support the 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I do not support the Democrats' radical position of late-term abortion. Like as an example, in the 7th, 8th, or 9-month, or in case there any question, it's weird written that way, the possibility of execution of the baby after birth. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So I don't think he's doing a stream. I think he's just live tweeting it, unless it's on his website, maybe.
Walz should take less notes and focus on telling the truth more. Oh, he got him.
Is it just the same video?
Inspire.
Oh, it is. I was gonna say it'd be awesome if he's like in a fucking
JD
gamer
Vance
chair
will
like
wipe
we are.
the floor with Tim Walz. So now is the time.
Why isn't Walz answering the question about his lies? He does talk a lot. Why is he why does he say talk a lot like that in quotes? But it's all total BS. JD Vance just crushed tampon Tim. Why? That doesn't work. It's not as good as like crooked Joe Biden. I don't know why. It just isn't.
Tampon Tim. It's so stupid.
Folks, tampon Tim stealing crooked Joe's signature catchphrase. Sad. Tim Walz wants to abolish ICE. I frickin' wish. Are you kidding me? Save. Thanks for the free meme. I would love that. That'd be awesome. Can I like this? I don't have an account. Should I get a True Social account and start advertising the stream on there? I think I should. I think I should, at least for the election night. And I'll like post like, come watch Trump win. See if we can get any people to donate to Palestine. Absolutely. Okay. I'll get on that at some point. Oh, that's such a great. Yeah, I might tweet that out later. Be like, who wishes this? I love this photo of them like, this is the border. This is the current border right now. It's just pillars.
Running dirt.
It's just a hiking trail. I love this image so much. Him yelling too. It's like kind of pixelated. It's great. Yeah, so at first, not gonna lie to you, Walz was kind of not feeling it, but he was warming up. We gotta let him cook a little bit, let him warm up, and then
but I'm actually surprised.
Now he has, I think Vance, like he has his foot on his neck now and not letting go. You know what I mean?
I was surprised. I honestly thought JD Vance was gonna do much worse, and he's doing okay. Like, you know, but like Tim Walz was like kind of starting off slow, and then now he's
Vance was trying to kind of do a like the first couple questions he was trying to like, especially like the hurricane, he's trying to be like, oh, you know, we both like this, you know, we both not like this, we both, you know, support, you know, everyone who's been affected by the hurricane. You know what I mean? He's trying to play like I'm a nice guy. And now
we want to turn now
Walz
to
has found his
gun violence epidemic. The leading cause
footing.
of death for children and teens in America is by firearms. Senator Vance.
Well, Tim Walz is a gun owner, so
legislation that Democrats claim would curb gun violence. You oppose red flag gun laws and legislation to ban.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for him because, like you said, Walz is a gun owner.
So let me ask you, earlier this year, for the first time, the parents of a school shooter were convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Oh my God.
Do you think holding parents responsible could curb mass shootings? I'll give you 2 minutes.
I don't think so,
on that particular
honestly.
case, I don't know the full details, but I certainly trust local law enforcement and local
I mean, I think
authorities
it
to make those
depends, like, in
decisions.
the
I think some
context of,
cases, the
like,
answer's
did
gonna be
they
yes,
get
and in some
the-
cases, the answer is going to be no. And
like
the
he's
details
saying,
really
I
matter
think
here, of
that's
course.
tough
For
to
example,
sell.
If a kid steals a gun, that's going to be different than if a parent hands over a gun knowing that their kid is potentially dangerous. But look, I want to just
You mean not having
speak
your
as
guns
a
in, like,
father
a,
of
you know,
3 beautiful
a,
little kids, and our oldest is now in 2nd grade.
in a storage
And like a
space
lot
that's
of parents,
locked,
we
you
send
know,
our
I
kids
think
to school with
then yeah, you
such
can
hope
blame
and such
parents
joy
for
and
it.
such pride
They're not
at their little faces on the
stare-
first day of school, and
wow.
we know, unfortunately,
Not storing their
that a
guns
lot of kids are
correctly.
going to experience this terrible epidemic of gun violence. And of course, our hearts
The
go out
dad
to the
literally
families
gives him
that
a
are
gun for his
affected by this
birthday.
terrible stuff, and we do have to do better. And I think that Governor Walz and I actually
Christmas.
probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just how do we actually do it?
Here we go.
Now, here's something that
me and
really
Walz
bothers
agree
me
with
and worries
everything.
me about this epidemic of violence. The gross majority, close to 90% in some of the statistics I've seen, of the gun violence in this country is committed with illegally obtained firearms. And while we're on that topic,
Because there's
we know that thanks to
so many
Kamala Harris's
guns in
open
America
border, we've seen
that
a
even if you
massive
banned
influx
guns,
in the
there'd be
number
already
of
so many
illegal
banned guns.
run by the Mexican
Or
drug
so many guns
cartels.
out there that,
number,
like, people can
the
get.
amount of illegal guns in our country is higher today than it was 3.5 years ago. But what do we do about the schools? What do we do to protect our kids? And I think the answer is, and I say this not loving the answer, because I don't want my kids to go to school in a school that feels unsafe or where there are visible signs
Gotta
of
start
security.
giving the teachers
But
guns.
Yep, here we go.
I think that
Yeah.
we have to increase security in our schools. We have to make the doors
More
locked
cops,
better. We have to make
guys.
the doors
More
stronger.
cops.
We've got to make the windows stronger.
We gotta have
And of
cops
course,
out
we've
of
got
Windows?
in the hallway.
We gotta
In
turn
the
it in-
hallway.
the idea
We gotta turn
that
our
we can
schools into
magically
actually
wave a
jail.
wand and take guns out of the hands of bad
They
guys
never leave.
just doesn't fit with recent
Once you go in,
experience.
you're-
We've got to make our schools
you never come
safer,
out
and I think we've got to have
until
some
you're
common sense
18.
bipartisan solutions.
It's
to
funny how
do that.
Republicans are just like,
Governor, you have 2 minutes.
more guns is the
Well,
answer.
I think all the parents watching tonight, this is your biggest nightmare. Look, I got a 17-year-old, and he witnessed a shooting at a community center playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you. As a
Make
member
the
of
windows so
Congress,
strong they can't
I
open
sat
them to
in
possibly
my
escape.
office, surrounded by dozens of the Sandy Hook parents, and they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead, and they were asking us to do something. And look, I'm a hunter. I own firearms. The vice president is. We understand that the Second Amendment is there, but our first
guns
responsibility
does
is to our
Kamala
kids
own?
to figure this out. In Minnesota, we
I'm
Owns a
curious.
bazooka.
enhanced red flag laws, enhanced background checks, and we can start to get data. But here's the problem. If we really want to solve this, we've got folks that won't allow research to be even done on gun violence. And this idea that we should just live with it, and here's what I do think, that this is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that.
Okay, can we stop
But
with
it's-
that?
that's not
I'm tired of
far
hearing
enough
that.
when we know there are things that work.
Like, no one
I've
cares
spent
what JD
time
Vance feels.
in Finland and seen some Finnish schools. They don't have this happen, even though they have a high gun ownership rate in the country. There are reasonable things that we can do to make a difference. It's not infringing on your Second Amendment. And the
'Cause
idea
America
to have
is all
some
fucking
of these
brain
weapons
broken,
out
that's
there,
why.
it just doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris, as an attorney general, worked on this issue. She knows
I
that
always
it's
think
there.
it's a combination
no one's
of you
trying
need
to scaremonger
better
and
gun
say we're
policy,
taking
but you
your
also
guns,
need
but
mental
I ask
health.
all of you out there, do you want your schools
we
hardened
got
to
to
look like a
tackle
fort?
mental health. It's a
Is
combination.
that what we have to go when we
It's an
know
access
there's
for both
countries around
mental
the world
health
that their children
also for
aren't
guns
practicing these types
issue.
of drills? They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't be that difficult. You can still keep your firearms, and we can make a difference. We have to. If you're listening tonight, this breaks your heart.
Senator.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's
appreciate
doing
you
okay.
saying so.
Christ have mercy. It is awful, and I appreciate what
Stop.
Tim
I
said.
don't-
Actually,
Now they're
This
back
is so
to the
cringe.
love it.
because I do think it illustrates some of the frankly
'Cause, like,
weird
Vance doesn't
differences
give a
between
fuck.
our own country's gun violence
No, he
problem
doesn't.
and Finland. Is okay. First of all,
Walz is
we
actually a
have
teacher,
way
so I
higher
know he
rates of
is
mental health
probably more
abuse,
genuine.
Could you
mental
imagine
health,
if Donald Trump said that to
substance
Kamala? Like,
abuse.
I'm
We have
so
sorry
sorry
to hear
that
that.
rates of
happened.
depression,
She
way
died?
higher rates of
Wow.
anxiety. We unfortunately
Like,
have
what
a
is
mental
JD
health
Vance supposed to be,
crisis
like
in
the
this
soft
country that I really
version of
do think
Trump
that
or
we need to
something?
get
What is
to
this?
the root causes
I
of,
think
because I don't
that's
think
the
it's
goal I
full
really
reason
think
why
of
we
this
have
debate
such a bad
for
gun violence
is to
problem, but I do think it's a big piece of it.
To make it calm
Another
everyone about
driver of
Trump?
the gun
Yeah.
Like,
violence
it's not.
epidemic,
Oh, he's not
especially that
bad
affecting
guy.
our kids, it doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible
Christ
gun
have
violence
mercy.
problem in a lot of our big cities.
I hate
and
that.
this is why we have to empower law enforcement to arrest the bad guys, put them away, and take gun offenders off the streets. I think there's a whole host of things that we can
let's
do
get
here.
more police.
But I do think at our schools we've got to.
We
talk
literally
about more
want
security.
to be so
Senator, thank
fascist.
you.
We
Governor,
want
you
just
previously
like
opposed an
we
assault
want
weapons
National
ban,
Guard
but it's only
troops
later in your
on every
political
corner.
career that you
No one
chose
can
your
go
position
outside
why.
after 8
Sit in that
p.m.
office with those San Diego parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today.
That's a little weird, but
And
okay.
Several things.
No,
I
that's
wanna
hick
mention
shit
on
though.
this
You know
is
that's real.
talking about
I
citizen where it's
respect
at,
it.
The number one
You go hunt some venison
where the
after my
most
game.
firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting
There you go,
themselves.
Devin.
And so
That's what
Mental.
we have.
That's
That's what I'm
out.
saying.
we
It's
should
a
look at all of
It's
the
two
issues.
things: mental
Making
health
sure folks have health care
and the
all that, but I wanna
access
be
to
very
guns.
Careful. This idea of
It's a
stigmatizing
combination.
mental health,
And also
just
America
because you have
just
a mental health
is-
issue doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up
Yeah,
doing
just America
is we
sucks
start
so
looking
much,
for
so it's
a
just
scapegoat.
like-
I noticed they didn't ask this
Sometimes
question
it just is the
both of the
guns.
presidential
It's
debates.
just the guns, and there
About
are
Yeah, I feel
like
you
it's
can
been
do about
kind
it.
of-
But I do think that this is
It used to be
and I
such
think
a
this is a healthy conversation.
question,
I
like
think
10
there's
years
a
ago.
capacity to find solutions on this that work, protect Second Amendment, protect our children. That's our priority.
Gentlemen, thank you. Margaret?
Thank you, Nora. Let's
How many
turn
times
now
I
to
gotta
the top
name their names, like
contributor
Nora,
to
Hey,
Margaret,
don't
like
you
a-
forget? They should
the
have
high
their
cost
@,
of
their
housing
Twitter @ so
and
we
rent.
know where to follow them.
There's a shortage of more than
No,
1
you know how
million
every
homes
time
in
they
the
ask,
United
like, oh,
States,
thanks,
and that
Margaret. Oh, thanks,
contributes
Nora. Like, so
to the high
fucking
housing
proper. It's so
prices.
annoying.
Governor Walz, the Harris campaign promises a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise
I need
to
more than
build
that, dude.
3 million new homes.
Seriously.
I
Where
need
are you
more.
building
Make home-
these
I mean, it's
homes?
better
And
than
will
nothing,
handing
but
out that kind of money just drive up
I need more than a
prices higher?
$10,000
No, it's
tax
not
credit.
handing out.
Dude.
We have, first, let me say this issue of housing, and I think those of you listening on this, the problem we've had is that we've got a lot of folks that see housing as another commodity. It can be bought up.
Well, that's
it can be
capitalism,
shifted,
unfortunately,
it can be
Tim.
moved around.
Everything's
Those are
a
not folks
commodity
living in those
under
houses.
capitalism.
Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house, I'm thinking of Christmas services.
And the next one
after
I'm thinking
midnight
of is a
mass.
White
With
House,
your family.
baby.
We need to
That's what
make
you
it
should
more
have
affordable.
said.
And one of the things, as I said, this program that the vice president is pushing forward and bringing a new way of approaching this is something we're doing in Minnesota from that lead. We in the state invested in making sure.
See,
our
now I
housing
don't wanna buy a
was the
house
biggest
next year
investment that we'd ever
unless
made in housing. It starts to make
Kamala
it
wins.
easier.
At
We
least
cut
maybe
some
I
of the
can
red
get-
tape. Local folks.
I can
look,
get
we can't do it at the federal
$10,000
level, but local folks make it
tax,
easier to build those homes. And then that down payment assistance. I can tell all of you
tax
out
break,
there,
but
one of the
I
certainly
mean,
for me,
the issue is though is the
using
down
GI Bill
payment.
was one
The
thing, but a
25,000
veteran's
might
home
help,
loan,
but I
the
think
good
you
thing
need
about a veteran's
more
home loan
because
is
people. The
you
issue
don't have
is
to pay the
if you don't
down
have a high
payment.
enough down payment,
Those are
you're
things
not
that
even
make it better.
gonna.
Now look, you're going to pay it back.
You're not gonna
and
get
you're
a good
pay
rate.
Your mortgage. Those are things that we
Katie's
know
gonna be
in the
like,
long run,
oh,
the
well, we're just
appreciated
gonna give
value,
tax cuts to the rich.
generational wealth that's created from it. And I will give Minneapolis an example. Minneapolis is the one city where we've seen the lowest inflation rate.
It's because it was
We've
burned
seen a
down.
12%
That's why it was so
increase in
cheap.
stock because we put some of these things in, and we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people because here's what we know. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money. And that's the thing that I think we should
See,
be able to
he's
find
selling this
some
on me
common ground
way
in,
better than
but we
Kamala
can't
did.
blame
Yeah.
immigrants for the only reason. That's not the
I
case.
don't- I still don't think
He's
it's
just
enough.
a better
The fact of
speaker.
the
He's a
matter
better
is
speaker
that
than
we don't
Kamala.
have enough naturally affording.
I mean, I don't
housing,
know if it's
but
true.
we
Will
can
they
make
actually
sure
go
that the
through with
government's
this?
there to help
You know, it could be like
kickstart
another
it,
student loan
create
shit.
Yeah.
Create that base.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, as far as your campaign's position, the promise is to seize
Because I think if you
federal
cancel
land to
student loan
build
debt
homes,
and do that, then
remove
you're maybe
regulation,
moving the
provide
needle
tax
more. You know what I'm
breaks,
saying?
and
Because it's
cut back
all of
on
it's a combination
immigration,
of one
which you
another.
say pushes up
Because a lot of people our
prices.
age who want to get houses.
Where are you going to build?
Like the
all
issue is
new
the
homes
down
you're
payment.
promising, and what part of any of
You
this
need like
plan will provide
$50,000,
immediate
$60,000 to
relief?
have
You
like
have 2
maybe a
minutes.
good
Well,
rate
first of
that
all,
isn't making you
Tim
house
just said
poor
something that I
at
agree with.
best.
We don't want to blame immigrants for higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions
Oh
of
my
illegal
God,
aliens
dude,
into
you're
this
looking
country,
so weak.
which does drive up cost, Tim. 25 million illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most
Why?
significant drivers
This is
of
not
home
true,
prices
dude.
in the country. It's why we have massive increases.
I'm living next to an illegal immigrant right now as we speak.
My landlord actually is an illegal alien. I don't know how they got so rich, but
now some of those ideas I actually think are halfway decent, and some of them I disagree with. But the most important thing here is Kamala Harris is not running.
like he's your first time home buyer loan. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna
president.
try to get a house
She
maybe
wants to
next year. We'll
enact
see,
all of
but
these policies to make housing more affordable.
I just know I'm in a
Invite
better
her to use
financial
the
situation than a
office that
lot
the
of people
American
my
people already
age
gave her,
in
not
circumstances.
sit
That's what I'm
around
talking about. I'm talking about the
and
average
do
person.
nothing while Americans find the American
People who are
dream
trying to buy
of
houses are
homeownership completely
typically
unaffordable.
our age,
Now,
maybe
you
a
asked,
little
Margaret,
younger.
what would immediately change the equation for American citizens if you lower energy
But
prices?
even me,
Donald
who I
Trump
think
says,
is
drill,
financially
baby,
a
drill.
good
One
spot,
of the
I'm
biggest
not
drivers of housing
guaranteed
costs aside
getting
from
what,
illegal
maybe a
immigration is, think
decent
about it.
house.
If a truck driver's paying 40% more for diesel, then the lumber he's delivering to the job site to build the house is also
No, they
going to
can't.
become a lot more
They can't get a
expensive.
mortgage.
If we
No,
open up
I don't think you could just
American
get.
energy, you will get immediate pricing relief.
You can't just get a deed. I don't
relief
think unless
for
you
American
have.
citizens. Not by the way, just in housing,
I'm
but
pretty
in a
sure
whole
you
host of
need
other economic goods too.
Identification.
Senator Vance, you still have 23 seconds there. Do you want to answer?
Can I have it?
Where? Yeah.
Can I have
Governor,
it?
we will get to you in a moment. But Senator, where are you going to seize the federal lands? Can you clarify?
Well, what Donald Trump has said is we have a lot of federal lands that aren't being used for anything. They're not being used for national
Wait,
parks.
so
They're
their
not being
policies
used, and
to
they
put
could be
houses in
places where we
federal
build
lands?
a lot of housing. And I do think that we should be opening up building in this country.
Yeah, let's get rid of all the federal
We have a lot
lands.
of land that could be used.
Put
We have
the
a lot of
and put the
Americans that need
houses-
homes. We should be kicking out illegal immigrants who are competing for those homes, and we should be building
There's
more
so
homes
many,
for the
dude.
American citizens who deserve to be here.
Senator, your time is up. Governor,
Let's
I
just
do wanna
start
let
putting
you
houses in the
respond
middle
to
of the desert.
allegation that
He
the
said
Vice
not
President
national
is
parks, but that'd be the
letting
next
in
logical step, right? It would be like,
migrants
let's
who
tear
are
down
affected
Yellowstone.
I guess we agreed not to fact check.
We're gonna
all of
close
this.
up that
Look, prices
geyser
are down compared to when
and put a
Donald Trump
house on
took office.
top.
But it's again,
If you hear a rumble,
blaming
just get
finding
out.
solution.
Just
I
get
was
out of the
gonna
house.
ask, though, on this question, are we going to drill and build houses in the same federal land? And I think when people hear federal lands, these are really important pieces of land.
We're gonna
Now,
start putting
Minnesota doesn't
houses
have
in
a
the
lot of federal
ocean.
lands. I know in the western part of the country, we
Calling them
There's
boat
not
houses.
a lot of federal lands
Not
in
yachts,
and around
not
Minneapolis,
yachts.
for example. So the issue is,
We're
I
gonna put
don't
the
understand
houses
the
in
federal lands
Antarctica,
issue
in the
unless we
ice.
see this, and I worry
Well, I
about
know,
this
well,
as someone who cares deeply.
We've
gonna start
already been
building
doing that,
igloos.
Mom,
And
with
the federal lands, look, Minnesota, we
reservations.
protect these things. We've got about 20% of the world's fresh water. These lands protect. They're there for a reason. They belong to all of us. But again, this is when
Luckily,
you
there
view
has been
housing
some
and you view these things as
tribes have been
commodities.
able to buy
Like, there's a chance to make
federal
money here.
land
Let's
back.
take this federal land and let's sell it to people for that. I think there's
That
better
is,
ways to do this. We've seen it in Minnesota.
their
We're able to
territory, which is
refurbish some
cool.
of these houses. We're able to make some investments. That gets people in. And I'm still on the fact on this. Economists, Senator Vance, you said you don't like the economists. Which economists are saying that it is immigrants that's adding to the cost?
Governor,
Where's
your
the study?
time is up. But Senator,
No,
on
don't
that
interrupt.
point,
Answer the
I'd like
question.
For you to clarify, there are many
Oh my
contributing
God, they always
factors
do this.
to high housing costs. What evidence do you
I always
have
get mad when
that
either side
migrants
quotes
are
economists.
part
Like
of
I
this
said last
problem?
debate, I'm
Well,
like,
there's a federal
I need
research study
names
that we're happy to
and
share after
links.
the debate. We'll put it up on social media, actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels of migration.
It's this guy on
especially illegal
YouTube,
immigration,
actually.
and higher housing prices. Now, of course,
His name is
Margaret, that's not the
Hassan.
entire driver of higher
Yeah.
housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers. But we increasingly have a federal
Manifest
administration
destiny,
that
baby.
makes it harder to develop our resources, makes it harder to build things, and wants to throw people in jail.
Yeah, we need
for
less
not
laws
doing
so we
everything
can build
exactly
more.
as Kamala Harris says
More
that you
houses
have
on
to
the
do.
land that
And
has
what
been
that
protected
means is that you
for
have a lot of
various
people who
reasons.
would love to build homes who aren't able to build homes. I actually agree with Tim Walz. We should get out of this idea of housing as a commodity. But the thing that has most turned housing into
Okay,
a
abolish
commodity is
landlords
giving
then.
it
That's a
away
great
to
first step.
millions upon millions of people
Force them
who
to
have
sell.
no legal right to be here.
What are the federal regulations? I deal with this as a governor.
You can very quickly reply.
I'm sorry.
Hey, let him
I
respond.
get this as a governor, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. That in some cases, many of those are local, many of them are state. I don't know which ones are federal, but I think whenever we talk regulations, people think they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire. I think you want to make sure that it's fireproof and those types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible for those. Congress writes those.
Governor, thank you, gentlemen.
Damn, he just smoked them of what you can do and can't do.
You're passionate about the
Oh
housing
my
crisis.
God, Tim is cooking tonight.
Nora?
Thank you.
Yeah, he just
One
needed to
of the
get warmed
top
up, and now
problems
he's just
facing
crushing
Americans
homers
is
all
the high
day.
cost of health care. Senator Vance, at the last presidential
Medicare
debate,
for all.
former
Say
President
it.
Trump was
Someone
asked
say it,
about
please.
replacing the Affordable Care
No,
Act.
J.D.
No, they're
Vance
gonna
will
be
say
like,
it as a
we
communist.
love private insurance. We love private insurance.
I love Cigna.
Since then, Senator, you've talked about changing how chronically ill Americans get health insurance. Can you explain how that would work?
They won't get
smiling?
any. They won't get
Stop
any.
smiling, JD. It's not funny. Nothing about this is funny, JD.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, of course, we're going to cover Americans with pre-existing conditions. In fact, a lot of my family members have gotten health care.
They have a concept of plans.
Members of my family actually got private health insurance, at least for the first time, switched off of Medicaid onto private insurance for the first time under Donald Trump's leadership. And I think that, a lot of people have criticized
Must be
this
nice to be
concept
rich.
of a plan.
I know.
It's very simple common sense. I think as Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress, you're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears, and it wouldn't actually mean anything because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation. Now, when Donald Trump was actually president, and again, he has a record to be proud of, prescription drugs fell in 2018 for the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala Harris's leadership, prescription drugs are up about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about 1.5%. He introduced pricing transparency. Think
My
about
Xanax
healthcare.
is only
You go to a
$2.
hospital, you try to buy something, and nobody knows what it actually costs. That price transparency will actually give American consumers a little bit more choice and will also drive down costs. And we talked about, the reinsurance regulations is what I was talking about. Look, Donald Trump has said that if we allow states to experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill but the non-chronically ill, it's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States. And I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged Obamacare, which was doing disastrously until Donald Trump came along. And I think this is an important point about President Trump. Of course, you don't have to agree with everything that President Trump has ever said or ever done. But when Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care. It's not perfect, of course, and there's so much more that we can do. But I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to put in place some better healthcare policies. He's earned it because he did it successfully the first time.
Governor?
All right, here's where being an old guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA.
David, are you able to?
And the reason it was so important is I come
one commenter
from
tried to
a
send a thing, but
healthcare state,
I think Nightbot
home
blocked
of the
it.
Mayo Clinic, home
I
to
unrestricted
Medical
it, but I don't know if it's
3M,
posting. I don't know if there's a way you
Medtronic,
can
all of
figure
those.
that out.
We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked first on affordability and accessibility and quality of healthcare. And so what I know is under Kamala Harris, more people are covered than they have before. And those of you listening, this is critical to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants to go back and remember this. He ran on the first thing he was going to do on day one was to repeal Obamacare. On day one, he tried to sign an executive order to repeal the ACA. He signed on to a lawsuit to repeal the ACA, but lost at the Supreme Court. And he would have repealed the ACA had it not been for the courage of John McCain to save that bill. Now, fast forward, what that means to you is you lose your pre-existing conditions. If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a woman, probably not. Broke your foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids get kicked out when they're 26. Kamala Harris negotiated drug prices for the first time with Medicare. We have 10 drugs that will come online, the most common ones that'll be there. But look, this issue, and when Donald Trump said,
yeah, it's not letting me do anything, but
GWO
said, God, what a mid-debate.
Because my kids would have never given me that.
But I unrestricted them, so they should be able to post, but I don't know if anyone else saw their message, because
what he explained is pre-Obamacare. And I'll make this as simple as possible because I have done this for a long time. What they're saying is, if you're healthy, why should you be paying more? So what they're going to do is let insurance companies pick who they insure, because guess what happens? You pay your premium, it's not much. They figure they're not going to have to pay out to you. But those of you a little older, gray, got cancer, you're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
Governor, thank you. Senator, you have not yet explained how you would protect people with pre-existing
Yeah.
conditions or laid out that plan.
Neither has Donald Trump.
Walz's little head nod there.
in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep those regulations in place, but we also want to make the health insurance marketplace function a little bit better. Now, what Governor Walz just said is actually not true.
Okay, what's your plan?
A lot of what happened, and the reason that Obamacare was crushing under its own weight, is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges. Donald Trump actually helped address that problem, and he did so in a way that preserved people's access to coverage who had pre-existing conditions. But again, something that these guys do is they make a lot of claims about if Donald Trump becomes president, all of these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality, Donald Trump was president.
Tim's like,
inflation was low, take-home pay was higher, and he saved the very program
So that
from
way,
the Democratic administration that was collapsing.
So that way you can
and
afford
would have
health care
absent
because
his
you got so much
leadership.
money
He
you
did
took
his
home.
job, which is governed in a bipartisan way and get results, not just complain about problems, but actually solve them.
Governor, did enrollment under the Affordable Care Act go up under the Trump administration?
It's higher now that we've seen it go up. Look, people are using it. The system works. And the question about this of young people or whatever, that's the individual mandate piece of this. And Republicans fought tooth and nail saying, well, Americans should be free to do this. Well, then what happens is...
So you think the individual mandate's a good idea?
You shrink. I think the idea of making sure the risk pool is broad enough to cover it, that's the only way insurance works.
If we just
when
had...
it doesn't, it collapses. You are asking pre-ACA
Medicare for all,
where we
man.
get people out. Look,
so you could even use that for the gun question. You could be like, yeah, if we have Medicare for all, you can, we could
to be there,
promote mental health services
able
more.
To make it, and we are making it this way when we incentivize people to be in the market, when we help people who might not be able to afford it get there, and we make sure then when you get sick and old, it's there for you. Because I heard people say, well, I don't want to buy into Medicare or whatever. Good luck buying health care once you get past 70. So look, the ACA works. We can continue to do better. Kamala Harris did that. The way she made everything better was negotiating those 10 drugs on Medicare for the first time in American history.
Thank you. Margaret?
Can I address that?
I apologize. We're out of time. We have a number of subjects to discuss. Margaret?
Let's talk
Shut
about
up,
families
JD.
in America.
Why do they keep saying... yeah, that's really weird.
There is a
Now that you pointed it out, they
childcare
keep
crisis
saying
in
their
this country.
name.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you. It's like, thank you, Devin, for saying that.
After every comment. Yeah, it's weird.
Paid leave program for new parents.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you,
Governor
JD.
Walz, you said that if Democrats win both the White House and Congress, this is a day one priority for you. How long should
I don't know if
employers
that's
be required
happening.
to pay workers while they are home taking care of their
No, I mean, I know why they cut it
newborn
off. We were saying that, like, after
that's
they talk,
negotiable,
they
and
keep
that's what
saying,
Congress
like,
works.
to
But
each
here's
they
what the
keep
deal is.
talking like we haven't heard their
Americans
names
sitting out there
before.
right now, you may work for a big company.
It's just a little
Look,
goofy
we're
thing.
home in Minnesota to some of the largest Fortune 500 companies.
Welcome to the
Kamala
stream.
Harris knows that in California. Those
No,
companies
bud.
provide paid family and medical leave. One is, I think they're moral and they think it's a good thing, but it also keeps their employees healthy. We in Minnesota passed a paid family and medical leave. You have a child, and I had to go back to work 5 days after my kids were born. This allows you to stay home a certain amount of time. What we know is that gets the child off to a better start, the family works better, we stay in their employers, we get more consistency in that. So Kamala Harris has made it a priority. We implemented it in Minnesota and we see growth. That's how you become a pro-business state. But the negotiations on it, and here's the issue, those big companies are able to offer it. Those of you out there who don't have it, just imagine what happens if you get cancer or your child gets sick. We know what happens. You end up staying home. In some places, that means no paycheck because you've got no protection on that. This is the case of an economy that Donald Trump has set for the wealthiest amongst us. He's willing to give those tax breaks to the wealthiest. He's willing to say, bust those unions up, do whatever. What we're saying is the economy works best when it works for all of us. And so a paid family medical leave program, and I will tell you, go to the families or go to the businesses and ask them. As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand
it just
side.
blows my
You
mind.
can't
Anyone
expect the most
listening to this
important
is
people in
like
our lives
the
to
people out
take
there
care of our
that
children
exist that like are like,
or
no, this sounds
parents
stupid.
to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks.
These
to
pregnant
be able to
women, as
get
soon as they
into
have the
that
kid, they
business
gotta be
and
back
to
the
make
next
sure that
day.
folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in
Come
Minnesota,
on
and
now.
I'm still telling you this. We were listed as the best state. We're
Send
still in
that kid to
crisis on this.
daycare. That's
A
probably
federal
like
program of paid family and
$7,000
medical
a
leave and
year.
help with this will enhance our workforce, enhance our families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, do you support a national paid leave program? And if so, For how long
gonna be like
should
straight up
employers
no.
be mandated
1 week.
to pay their employees while
I'll
they're
compromise,
home
1
taking
week.
care of their newborn? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Margaret, a number of my Republican colleagues and some Democrats, too, have worked on this issue. And I think there is a bipartisan solution here because a lot of us care about this issue. I mean, look, I speak from this very
Yes, you guys
personally
are very
because I'm
bipartisan.
married to a beautiful woman.
Heard that like 5
who's an
times
incredible
already in
mother
this
to
Guys,
three beautiful
he's
kids, but is also
he's married to a
very,
beautiful
very
woman.
corporate litigator.
Him and Tim
I'm so
Walz are
proud
like
of
best
her.
friends.
But being a working mom,
They're gonna have a
even
beer
for
after the
somebody
debate.
with all of the advantages of my wife, is extraordinarily difficult. And it's not just difficult from a policy perspective. She actually had access to paid family leave because she worked for a bigger company. But the cultural pressure on young families and especially young women, I think makes it really hard for people to choose the family model they want. A lot of young women would like to go back to work immediately. Some would like to spend a little time home with the kids. Some would like to spend longer at home with the kids. We should have a family care model that makes choice possible. And I think this
Oh,
is
you wait, you're okay with women and families choosing now?
I mean,
Oh, that's weird.
If you look at the federal programs that we have that support paid family leave right now, the community
call it the
development
Trump
block grant,
Family
and there's
Care.
another block grant program that spends a lot of money from the federal
I
government.
think you should have the right
These
to
programs
choose how
only
you
go to one
how your
kind of
family
childcare model.
operates.
Let's
Oh,
say you'd
really
like your
now?
church maybe to help you out with childcare. Maybe you live in a rural area or an urban area and you'd like to get together with families in your neighborhood to provide
See, this is where
childcare
Tim
in a way
Walz
that
has
makes
gotta be
the most
like,
sense. You don't get
but didn't you
access
say
to
this?
any of these federal
Right. I mean, I would have called him
We
out
wanna
right there. I've
promote
been like,
choice
wait, so you're okay
in
with
how we
women and
deliver
families
family
choosing
care
now?
and how we promote childcare? Because look, it is unacceptable.
See,
But-
Tim Walz is being a little too
Tim
nice.
and I have been on the campaign trail a lot the past 7 or 8 weeks, and one of the biggest complaints I hear from young families is people who feel like they don't have options, like they're choosing between going to work or taking
That's
care
right,
for their
Bryn.
kids.
The same
That
guy
is
who
an
suggests that
incredible
families step
burden
up to watch
put on
people's
American
kids
families.
more.
We're
Yeah.
the only country that does it. I think we could do a heck of a lot better.
Senator, thank you. You have also said, Senator Vance, many things about the American family.
Oh.
The Federal Reserve says parents will spend nearly as much on
Will he
child
quote
care
that?
as they
Will
do
they
on
quote that?
housing each month. So I want to get your thoughts on this. President Trump recently said, as much as child care is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers we'll be taking in. Is President Trump committed to the $5,000 per child tax credit that you have described? You have 1 minute.
All right, thank you, Margaret.
Said, Margaret. I just want to defend my
There it
running
is.
mate here a little bit. Is that
Thank you,
we're
Margaret.
gonna be taking in a lot of money by penalizing companies for shipping jobs overseas.
It's
and
not that
penalizing
expensive, actually.
countries who employ slave laborers and then ship their products back into our country and undercut the wages of American workers. It's the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan. Cut taxes for American workers and American families. Cut taxes for businesses
What does this
that are
have to do with the
hiring and
question?
building companies in the United States of America.
So they're saying
but
they can afford
penalize
childcare.
companies
So
and
childcare is not
countries
gonna get
that are
any
shipping
cheaper. It's just that we
jobs
need to
overseas. That's the heart of the economic
cut
proposal.
taxes for
And
the
I think what
Americans,
President Trump is
which
saying is that when
he
we
hasn't
bring in this
historically
additional
done.
revenue with higher economic growth, we're going to be able to provide
And then get
paid
rid of,
family leave,
you know,
child care
exports from
options that are
China.
viable and workable for a lot of American families.
Can you clarify how that will solve the child care shortage?
Well, because as Tim
I guess
said,
that
a
was a
lot of the
part of the
child care
question I didn't hear.
shortages, we just don't have enough resources going into the multiple people who could be providing family care options. And we're going to have to, unfortunately, look, we're going to have to spend more money. We're going to have to induce more people to want to provide child care options for American families, because the reason it's so expensive right now is because you've got way too few people providing this very essential service.
Walz has the face I
Thank you,
have
Senator.
when I'm just
Governor
like
Walz,
contemplating
your ticket also
the
has some
existential
child care
dread.
tax credit proposals.
While I'm
Do you
at
think
work or
Congress
something,
will
staring
agree
off
to
into
the
space, being like,
$6,000
wow.
credit for newborns and $3,000 credit for
I
children
just want him
over the
to
age of
blast
6,
JD
as your
right now. I
campaign
just,
has
come on,
promised?
give me a
Is that
joke, please.
realistic?
Well, if these members of Congress are listening to anybody, I can tell you, and this is the biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked to hear it's not that expensive. And let's be clear, whether it's $5,000 or $6,000, that pays you about 3 or 4 months. Let's be clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart. I'm not opposed to what he's talking about on options. We've done scholarship types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case.
I hear it one more time.
The issue here is, the question you asked
Like,
is,
yeah, me and
you're not
JD
gonna
are
pay for
really
it with
close
these
on this.
tariffs. That's just adding another $4,000 on the family and taking less. So not only do they not get the money to pay for that. They're $4,000 in the hole.
Christ have mercy.
That's his alma mater.
Christ
and
have mercy.
I think the issue here is those members of Congress, I can't believe they're not. When I go to businesses, sure, they'll talk about taxes sometime, but they will lead with child
Call
care.
him weird. I want him to call him weird.
Because we know the problem is,
I think both of them don't want to be divisive. I really don't.
Economy's growing, but we need the
I don't know why.
Governor, thank you.
Like,
we need to move on.
Trump is the most
Let's talk
divisive
about the
person
state of
ever.
democracy,
Right.
the
That's
top
why I think
issue
Vance is
for
compensating.
Americans after the economy and inflation. After the 2020 election, President Trump's campaign and others filed 62 lawsuits contesting the results.
Here
Yes.
we got this
including
classic
those
Finally.
question.
by President Trump and other
Finally.
Republican presidents, looked at the evidence and said there was no
But what does JD have
widespread
to do with
fraud.
this?
They're
The
going to
governors
ask if
of
he
every state in the nation,
if he will accept the
Republicans and Democrats,
accept the
certified
results of the
2020
election or
results
whatever.
and sent a
Of course, he's
legal
gonna say yes.
slate of
He's gonna
electors
be.
to Congress.
They're gonna be like, "Are you gonna do
for
what
January
Mike
6th.
Pence? Like he's gonna."
Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked
Oh
the
my
states
God.
to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal.
Yeah, I
Would
agree,
you
David.
again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on
Nora,
the future. We need to figure out
let's
how to
talk
solve
about
the
this.
inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question.
should make it
because
all
you did
free.
ask it. Look, what President Trump
I wanna
has said
answer your
is
question,
that
and I'm
there
gonna
were
answer it
problems in
right now.
2020, and
Like-
my own belief is that we should fight about
Answer
those
the
issues,
question.
debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully. And on January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president. Donald Trump left the White House, and now, of course,
Yeah, after,
unfortunately,
like,
we have
whining
all
for,
of
like-
the negative policies that have come from the Harris-Biden
The public
administration.
square.
I believe
Right.
that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans
my God,
setting
shut
aside
up.
lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens.
Get rid of
And it's
TikTok.
Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow
And
Americans,
that's why we love
she
Twitter,
wants to
which
censor
has
people who engage
censored
in
a lot
misinformation.
in the last
I think
six-
that is a much
6
bigger
to
threat to
7 months,
democracy than
particularly
anything that
around
we've seen in this
Palestine,
country
but
in the
sure.
last 4 years, in the last 40 years. Now, I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by two lifelong blue-collar Democrats, to have the
Yeah,
endorsement
brother.
of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. Lifelong
Kennedy.
members
Yes, we
in the
love-
Democratic
I
coalition.
love
Of course,
Tulsi
they
Gabbard.
don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every
Great-
issue.
great
We don't
Democrat.
have to agree on every issue, but we're united behind a basic American First Amendment principle that we ought to debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an
Where?
industrial scale. She
Where?
did it during COVID. She's done it over a
When?
number of other issues, and that to me is a much bigger threat to democracy.
What are we talking about? You're just
than
being
what
so
Donald
vague. Be
Trump said
specific.
when he said that
What, you want to
protesters
say
should
the
peacefully
N-word,
protest on
bro?
January 6th.
Like, that's what you're mad about?
So I didn't
What-
answer
what-
the
what-
question.
debate.
What
I
is
Like,
think
what
there's a lot of
censorship?
commonality here, and I'm
You guys want to be
sympathetic to
racist on
speaking
Twitter,
on
and you're
things I
mad
think I
that
might have
before
with,
Musk you
with
couldn't
the
be
senator.
racist
But
on
anyway,
Twitter
there's
as
one-
much.
There's one, though,
Like,
that
that's-
Wait.
this one is troubling to me.
Something's
and I say
going
that
on here.
because I think we need to tell the story. Donald Trump refused to acknowledge this. And the fact is that I don't think we can be the frog in the pot and let the boiling water go up. He was very
Yes.
clear. I mean, he lost this election, and he said he didn't. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day, some with the American flag. Several later died. And it wasn't just in there. In Minnesota, a group gathered on the state capitol grounds in St. Paul and said, "We're marching to the governor's residence, and there may be casualties." The only person there was my son and his dog, who was rushed out crying by state police. That issue, and Mike Pence standing there as they were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Mike Pence made the right decision. So, Senator, it was adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with
You're gonna
people
say-
long enough
Christ
to know
have
that as a
mercy.
football coach, sometimes you really
You're
want
gonna
to
say,
win,
"Hang
but the
fucking
democracy
JD
is
Vance
bigger than
next."
winning an election. You shake hands.
Wait, that happened to your
and then
son?
you try and do everything
I'm
you
so
can to help
sorry
the
to hear
other
that.
side win.
Right?
Christ
That's
have mercy.
what's
Yeah.
at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting
Then why do you
this.
want to lock up
And a
Donald
president's
Trump?
Words matter. A president's
Yeah.
words matter. People
Interesting.
hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened on January 6th,
sorry that
the
happened.
first time in American history that a president or anyone tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner.
Good luck.
This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Donald Trump literally didn't even shake Joe Biden's hand at the end of that. Like, he literally left.
Look, Tim, first of all, it's really rich for
Here it comes.
Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country.
Oh my God.
We're going to shake hands after this debate
So
and after
delusional.
this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
I mean, you might, but will Donald Trump
for years in this
will
country,
Donald Trump let that
Democrats
happen?
protested the results of elections. Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen by Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, I do blame
because Russians
the
bought, like,
Democrats and Hillary a little bit
$500,000
because
worth
they
of
kind of
Facebook
started
ads.
the whole.
This has been going on for a long time.
I mean, to be fair, you can
And
even
if
go
we
back
wanna
to
say
2000
that
now.
we need to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say,
Where
as
that
Tim
one
Walz
was
is saying that this is
much
just a
closer to
problem
being
that
stolen because
Republicans
of
have
the
had,
whole
I don't buy that.
Florida.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I
Florida
think
thing.
revisionist history on this. Look, I don't understand how we got to this point. But the issue was that happened. Donald Trump can do it. And all of us say there's no place for this. It has massive repercussions. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone, threatening to do something, that's not censorship. Censorship is book banning. We've seen that.
There you go. Cook 'em.
I just think for everyone tonight, and I'm going to thank
Katie's looking
Senator
at his
Vance,
iPhone right
I
now.
think this is the conversation they want to hear. And I think there's a lot of agreement. But this is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did
Bro,
Kamala Harris
bro, you gotta say yes or
from
no.
speaking their mind in
Oh,
the
you're
wake
taking
of
the L,
2020
JD. Just say no.
COVID
No.
situation?
Yes, he
Has
lost.
she tried to-
That is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump
Oh
and I
my
think that there were
God,
problems
dude.
in 2020.
Who
We've talked about it.
cares?
I'm happy to talk about it further. But you guys
You keep
have
saying
hacked
censorship,
us
but that doesn't
for
mean
not
anything
believing in
when you have no
democracy. The most
specific
sacred
details
right
you're
under
talking
the United
about.
States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the
threatening or
power
hate
of
speech.
government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy.
Speaking their
that will
minds,
long
like
outlive
making
this present political
AI
moment.
images
I would
to
like Democrats and
promote a
Republicans to
political
both
message
reject
or
censorship.
do
Let's
some
persuade
weird
one another. Let's
anti-vax
argue about
bullshit.
ideas, and
Yes,
then
I
let's
think
come
that should
together
be
afterwards.
disallowed until
Can you
Americans
fire
can
in a
have some
crowded
media
theater?
literacy. I
That's
think
the
that's
test.
not a
That's the
hot
Supreme
take
Court
anymore.
test.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't
Senator,
wear
the
masks.
governor does
That's
have the
not
floor.
Fire in a crowded theater.
Why are you getting mad at a
That is
private
criticizing
fucking
the
company?
policies
Go
of the
yell at
government, which is the
fucking
right of
what's
every
his
American.
name?
Senator, the governor
Mark.
does have the floor for
Mark
1 minute to
Zuckerberg.
respond to you.
Yeah. Well,
The government's
I
not
don't
going
on
to tell a
Facebook.
private
What I do
company
know
what they
is
can and can't
I see
censor
a candidate out there
on their
who
private
refused, and now,
platform.
again, I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not anything anywhere other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look,
Republicans,
Mike
they want
Pence
everything to be like fucking
made that
4chan or
decision
something. I don't
to
fucking
certify
get
that
it.
election. That's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned about is where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up?
Yeah,
Will
JD,
keep
are you
your
gonna
oath of
literally
office,
cuck?
even if
Are you gonna
the
do the right
president
thing?
doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice
she
on
would have
this
picked
election
Pete Buttigieg
of who's
instead.
going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be right back with both of
For
our
closing
candidates.
statements.
The CBS News vice presidential debate continues.
Yeah.
You're both gonna have 2 minutes and closing statements.
Fucking censorship, such a stupid topic to talk about on a debate stage, in my opinion. It's just like, because all Republicans want is they want to be able to just say misinformation and do stupid propaganda on these platforms, and they're mad that most companies know that hurts their ad revenue, so they ban it. That's the reason why they do censorship, is because fucking McDonald's doesn't want to put their ads next to fucking Hitler fan club Facebook page. Like, that's, you know what I mean? It doesn't help the advertisers, so that's why they do the censorship. But the government's not gonna get involved in that, unless it has something to do with TikTok and promoting Chinese values or whatever the fuck. It's a stupid topic. All right, well, I think at this point, Walz has pulled ahead. You know, unless he said, like I said, unless he says something crazy in the final 2 minutes here, closing statements. You know, we'll give credit. I'll give credit to JD Vance. He hasn't had a blunder that I guess a lot of people are expecting or maybe wanting for entertainment reasons. He haven't had a weird, like, they're trying to ban Diet Coke or whatever, you know, moment.
Yeah.
Or I like couches or something weird like that, right? He's been pretty like your basic Republican.
Typical conservative, yeah.
They obviously is compensating for Trump's divisiveness by trying to be like, oh look, I can talk reasonably with my counterpart, you know, and kind of back to basics politics, right? Yeah, like, we're not, at the end of the day, we'll handshake and have a beer at Applebee's after this or whatever, you know. And Walz is trying to do the same thing, because I think Walz at this point knows he has it in the bag if he just talks like a normal person. So that's why, like, I think if he had blunders, maybe Walz would poke fun at that, but I think Walz is kind of smart and just kind of keeping it, you know, someone said earlier this debate's mid, but I think that's Walz's goal, is like, look, I know I'm just going to outspeak him probably, at least on policies. You know, so I'm just going to play it kind of safe. Like, yes, I think he could do a lot better by, like, you know, maybe doing some zingers, but I think the risk is executing those zingers and whatnot. You risk, you know, blundering.
But I wanted the memes, Devin.
I know, but the polls are too close together. You know what I mean? You can't.
God.
So that's why I think he's
playing
it safe.
Third debate, please. Please, one more debate with Kamala and Trump. I just want to see it.
I still want to.
Can they be sitting down? Can they sit down? I just want to see them. I want to see Donald Trump in his, like, he's got his back. Like, you know, he sits down like he has a back problem, you know?
I mean, I do too, you know. No, I want all four of them up, and it's a free-for-all. And only one can leave the arena.
You know Donald Trump would just talk over JD Vance the whole time.
I know. But I would like to see how they, you know what I mean? Like, work together, be like, JD, I think you have this question. You
remember
you can
answer.
answer.
that one time in, like, 2018, like, when Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, Chuck Schumer, and then Mike Pence, they were, like, talking about the border wall, and, like, Nancy Pelosi's, like, they literally had a full-on debate in the Oval Office. You remember that?
Did they had a debate at the Oval Office?
Well, it was like they were talking about the border, but the press was there, so they were, like, debating.
Oh, I don't remember.
I can't believe you haven't seen that.
I don't remember.
I think you have.
I probably just don't remember. 2018 was a long time ago. Okay,
but like the whole time, Mike. But the thing I'm saying is, Mike Pence was just sitting in the background, just nodding to everything. Like, he didn't say anything the whole time. It was just Donald Trump going off. That's what I'm saying.
Look at this boring ass, by the way, like, venue. Oh my god, this is like this is what America looks like right here. A fucking box made of bricks, and we're like, wow, so much character.
Welcome back to the CBS News Vice.
But yeah, I don't remember that clip.
It is now time for the.
Yeah, we should have a debate where we're moderating. I like that.
Dude, I would chew them the fuck out, but then I would probably crumble from being on.
Well,
or maybe Devin and me should just debate about a random issue.
Thank you to all of you. If you're still
which might be coming.
Hold on, let our man speak.
I appreciate it, but look, the support of the democracy matters. It matters that you're here, and I'm as surprised as anybody of this coalition that Kamala Harris has built, from Bernie Sanders to Dick Cheney to Taylor Swift. and a whole bunch of folks in between them.
That was
and they don't all agree on everything.
From Dick Cheney, you drop Dick Cheney in the same category as Taylor Swift and Bernie Sanders. Great.
And one where our politics can be better than it is.
This one's for the Dick Cheney voter out there.
This might be it for the memes.
Is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And the idea that freedom really means something. Not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom or exam room, but the freedom for you to make choices about yourself.
Censorship, baby.
Now, look, we all know
the government is in your
Trump
bedroom if you have a fucking like Alexa
or
whatever.
Said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage, and then he spent 4 years.
Ooh, American carnage! I haven't heard that one in a long
Vance
time.
Tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me. He said Donald Trump makes the people I care about afraid. A lot of America feels that way. We don't need to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt was right. All we have to fear is fear itself. Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's bringing us a politics of joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that. All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your voices heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor
Let's
Walz,
go.
Thank you.
That wasn't
Senator
even
Vance,
talked about
your
at all,
closing
except for
statement.
that right in the
Well, I want to thank
beginning.
Governor Walz, you folks at CBS, and of course the American people for tuning in this evening. And one of the issues we didn't talk about was energy. And I remember when I was being raised by my grandmother.
It's a closing statement,
JD. She
JD.
didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night, and because money was often very tight. And I believe, as a person who wants to be your next vice president, that we are a rich and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of
So you're giving it for free?
That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies.
Free energy?
I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten
free
harder
food too
because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor,
I think JD's a socialist.
You ought to be able to buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have your communities flooded with fentanyl, and that too has gotten harder with because of Kamala Harris's policies.
Yes.
Now, I've been in politics long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse. Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world. I meet people on the campaign trail who can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me to pray for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve their full dreams with the broken leadership that we have in Washington. They're not going to be able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years. We need change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be doing this, and I'm rooting for you. God bless you, and good night.
Senator Vance,
shut the fuck up. I hate him.
Thank you both
oh
for
my
participating
God.
in the
Greatest,
only vice
beautifulest
debate
country.
of this election cycle. I'm Margaret Brennan.
And I'm
well,
yeah, we know your name. We fucking know your name. Margaret and Nora. Jesus Christ. If I have to hear their name one more time. And
hey,
what's that guy's name? JD Vance, Tim Walz, Nora, and Margaret. Oh my God.
It's because people are going to forget, Jerk. Okay?
Yeah. How was the debate, Tim? How was the debate? You think you did good?
Hell of a fucking debate.
Oh, is that their wives? Why do they show?
Okay, I was gonna make a really fucked up joke. I don't know if I should make it, but when you said there's their wives, I was gonna be like, he's probably saying, "You want a wife swap tonight?"
Oh my God. Hey, you guys want to grab a beer and apple, please? Let's go.
Do a little wife swapping.
See, Donald Trump and Kamala would never do this in a heartbeat.
Yeah, because there's actual beef.
Yeah, this is fake shit. JD's like, oh, thanks, Margaret. I don't know your name.
Yeah, what if he flipped him? He just what's your guy's name? I didn't hear it for the first 20 times.
All right, in the chat, I want to. Who won the debate? Let's start with the chat. Who won the debate?
Who won the debate?
Your answers.
And give a score. I want a score out of 10.
And what was your favorite part about it? Was it the holy, or what was it? Christ.
Yeah, give us the whole paragraph.
Yeah.
And it's due right now.
Between the candidates, their spouses, and the moderators.
All right.
All right. General says the Walz won. The Walz.
Okay, now you need a score and a paragraph explaining what your favorite part was.
So what,
this
General?
counts
Why
towards
do you
your final grade.
But before we start, I just want to say a big shout out because we're doing November 5th, a whole day.
That's right.
Stream, a whole day stream.
Well,
right?
most of the day.
Before people leave the stream, I'm just saying, please tune in, and we're going to be doing a donation to Palestine.
Some Palestine fundraiser, still figuring it out, but
we're going to do a lot of fun things. We're going to do a fantasy draft. We're going to do
the fantasy draft will be before that stream, so we hope we'll save more time. But I think
but we have some fun things going on. We got I think you said we might do some debates. We might do.
I don't know. You said we're going to do debates. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Well, we got to do something for 12 hours, right? So, I have some good.
I don't know if it's going to be 12 hours, or because you got to get a tattoo.
Well, that's right. I'm getting a MAGA tattoo on my neck. So get ready for that. All the donations you bring in is going towards my tattoo.
Secretly, right? Yes. No, yeah, we're doing that. We don't have a set time, but as we get closer, I think we'll figure it out. Yeah, but Jarek's getting a tattoo, and then the goal is to stream at the very least. It could be earlier. My goal is to have it start earlier, but
Bryn is making a cake. What kind of cake?
Bryn is making a cake. Yeah.
The general actually gave a whole
7.1 out of 10. Walz kept it safe, but also explained the policies well. I think most Americans don't even understand the policies. I think the fact that he laid them out better than JD is huge. Overall, he just gave solid talking points, facts, and retorts. JD was a 4.5. I'm going to give JD a higher score just because I was expecting worse. Yeah. I don't think that's fair, but I'll give him a 7, and then I'll give Walz an 8.
If they were sitting down, it would have been totally different. Totally different.
But no, yeah, we're having a election night stream where our goal is to stream until the election is over. I'm not sure when that will be. Granted, within reason, if it's like 5 o'clock in the morning and
but here's the thing, guys.
They say it's not going to be called for a couple days, but yeah, we're starting. Hopefully, like I said, my aim is to start it at the very least, an hour before.
Here's the thing,
before
guys.
the first polls close.
Do you want to see Devin cook a full gourmet meal?
Oh my God! That's
the real question. This is the question we have to talk about.
That's right. Well, you have to explain what you mean by that.
Well, I'm saying, because if Devin loses, because he's so confident that he's going to win, that he has to make a gourmet meal under my chef supervision.
Because you are a chef in real life, right? In the flesh.
That's what they say. I don't know.
Make a meatloaf. I think I could do that.
But if people want to see that on stream, or do you want to see me talking on stream? The other punishment is me, and it's like, we get to see me fucking do a script about the menu.
No, you're acting out. You're acting out the menu.
What are you acting out?
You're reading the script. You got to read the script with character voices. I'm the director. I'm telling you if you need to do a better job.
So you're gonna buy the tables. You're gonna buy the cloths.
No. It's like when actors do a.
I don't know. All the chat is really excited for you to cook something. I think the people know what they want. So if that's true, more donations to me. To Team Jarek. And
yeah, basically when we do the Palestine thing, there will be an option, I'm hoping, where you put in Team Jarek or Team Devin, and then after I think it was 10 o'clock at night, whoever raises the most money gets a bonus points towards our fantasy electoral college football, whatever you want to call it. Because there is other stipulations to that. We're doing a draft, like you said. If we both get 25 states, and we both get one candidate. So, and then we added some fun elements to it as well. So we had like bets. We'll have bets, I think, on not bets, but we get points for who guesses how many votes we get.
Don't you have the thing saved? Why don't you just
somewhere
show it on screen?
I don't know where that is. Right? I don't have it.
He's not ready, guys. He's not ready.
I will have it ready for whenever we do our fantasy draft, which will probably be a couple days before Tuesday. We'll try to get it as close as we can. We won't do it on Tuesday just because I'm not sure how long it will take, and we don't want the states to be called before we draft it. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really fun.
Alabama's gonna be called.
We know that one. That one's
Alabama's that for sure, and then New York or California.
Yeah. But I think it's gonna be fun because it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge. I think how we draft like some of the swing states and stuff. He has a plan, but we only get to hear the plan when it's game day, right? Well, I can't share what I'm doing. No, yeah.
I have a big plan, concept of plans. I mean, it's going to be Joe over for Devin. Let's just say.
We'll see. But yeah, so as we get closer, you'll know more about that. But is there...
No, I'm just telling the vote, the people. I'm saying the voters, the people before they leave the stream, about this.
But say if you're following this channel, hopefully you get a notification when that stream goes live. That's probably the best way to know.
Yeah, Devin, you have to make like a little thing to post on social media to advertise it too. Like a little.
I mean, will even reshare it though?
Oh fuck yeah, I'll reshare it. Come on.
Okay. Well, I was gonna make a poster for election night itself. So at the very least, because my goal is like if we can raise like even $500. Well, any amount counts, but I think 500 is a reasonable goal.
I'll reshare it with my people, and then the people that I reshare it with will reshare it themselves.
Hopefully, that's the goal. But yeah. Hope that all made sense. I feel like we didn't explain that well, but it's okay. But yeah, how we I gave my loose grades. I think Walz didn't have to do too much in this debate to win it. But I'll give credit to JD in the sense of he didn't have, like I said, he didn't have any like blunders, and I'm calling like blunders. I mean, there's obviously things I think he said that were stupid if you know a little bit about policies and politics, right? But for the sake of a debate, or if you take out the policies out of it, how are they talking? How confident do they look and whatnot? JD was surprising, so we'll give him credit for that. But unfortunately, I think to win a debate, you actually it's tough because in a debates there's definitely like going to be out like like Kamala says, you exist in the context of all that came before you. What's happening outside of the debate does affect, I think your standing in going into the debate and what you need to accomplish. So I think JD, I don't think there was a way for JD to win the debate outside of.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because he has to keep defending everything Donald Trump says. So like it's kind of hard to defend anything Donald Trump says because he's just like literally unhinged.
But he definitely accomplished at least. Or I don't know if he accomplished. I think a lot of people think it's probably fake.
But like, JD said a couple things.
Being nice with Walz and stuff.
Well, he said a couple things like that were different than I thought they would have said. Like the federal lands, putting housing there, and then also like he kind of backlashed on the abortion thing a little bit, of course. So did Trump. But no, he didn't. No, Trump didn't really do that. He didn't backlash about that, but or backtrack, sorry. So I don't know. I think honestly, Tim Walz definitely won, but yeah, it was a little closer than I thought it was going to be. Like, to be honest, because Tim Walz kind of started off rough.
How the first 10 minutes went, if that continued, then maybe you can make an argument for JD winning. But the thing is, it's so hard for me to see a world where JD wins when the stuff he's arguing for is just not popular.
I was just not expecting JD Vance to act like this in this debate.
Yeah. So I guess for the content people, I guess we lose, right? But for the sake of probably for a lot of Americans, right? They're like, oh, a sense of normalcy, a good boring debate that I can tune out of after 30 minutes, Like
well,
that's
that's
what people
crazy
want.
because like the Mike Pence and Kamala Harris debate was very different. Like they didn't agree on anything. I mean, because you had COVID going on and stuff like that. Even the Tim Kaine and Mike Pence, like that was weird to me. Is like they both were, or like JD Vance and Tim Walz were just like, yeah, he's my best friend. Like, yeah, we agree on some stuff, but blah 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 blah. But like that hasn't been seen since like Paul Ryan and fucking Joe Biden when they were debating. Like that's what I'm saying. It was kind of relatively new to see
I think that's more of a JD Vance strategy. But I think Walz wins though, because Walz has been a like I like all my neighbors, He literally quoted freaking Matthews, whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like I think it's hard to when your candidate and your party has been very aggressive. Kind of
looks like JD Vance a little bit.
Yeah, maybe I could see it. But no, how I think it's really hard when JD Vance is representing a party that's very aggressive, right? And is racist, openly racist, and transphobic, whatever, sexist as well. All the bad things. It's really hard to come across as like, oh, I respect all my neighbors, like Walz does when Walz actually is closer to walking the walk. You know what I mean? So I think it's an interesting strategy, and I get why they did it because of, like I said, Trump's so divisive, and at this point, Trump's probably trying to. They're both sides are fighting for that, kind of swing voter who's sitting on probably not going to vote at all because they hate both.
But a lot of people don't like. They don't come into the vice presidential debate. To be honest,
I don't. Yeah, I mean.
Nobody cares about these two fucking people.
But I'll be curious to see what the numbers are on this for like viewership because I have a feeling
they're gonna change.
Because I feel like the viewership probably was higher on this one only because it's two new people. If it was it was someone that we've seen before,
honestly, I wish the roles were reversed. I wish Tim Walz was being president and like the Kamala Harris was the vice president because
you hate
honestly,
women.
No, I'm saying Tim Walz was such a better speaker than
because women can't speak, right?
All right, you gonna stop with debates? But I'm just saying, like Tim Walz, I think did a very good job. You even said it during the debate.
I know.
Like, with you. he explained it way better. I keep saying way better. Like
he was more. I think he did a better job of explaining how he thinks the policies will work. And going into more detail, like Harris did do that a little bit, but I feel like
how long to talk about policy?
I felt like
we didn't even hear it during the DNC. Like all she talked about was like, "Oh yeah, we love our military and we got to be strong." That was it.
But even if you go just from the debate perspective, Harris did talk about like the housing thing that she wants to do, right? The housing policy, and she mentioned the tax breaks and whatnot. But I feel like she went through it quicker. I mean, I don't you'd have to sync it up, but I feel like she went through quicker, and it was also if I don't remember if I remember correctly, I think she was also trying to talk about something else, so maybe she didn't have the opportunity to do it as much. But I don't know, Walz just has a little bit different riz to her. Harris is definitely trying to, now that she's the presidential candidate, is trying to be more serious because we know her from 2019, where I would put her in the same realm as Walz, where she was goofy, you know what I mean? And some people found that not good, but most people didn't. But I think people find Walz a little bit debates, cooler because he's, a football coach and whatever.
But it just pisses me off about these debates is that they don't ever talk about what they're actually going to do. They just go back like, oh, Donald said this. Oh, Harris said this. Donald said this. Harris said that.
I think the VP, this one, I feel like they did a better job of asking that stuff.
No, for sure. But I'm just saying, that's what the norm has been for the last 8 years.
I'm the anti-Trump vote. I'm the Trump vote. Yeah, it's just what he's saying is awful. I agree with that because it's that's been my issue. It's or I think I said that in the last debate we covered, where I'm
literally the Harris and Trump debate was literally just them baiting each other the whole freaking time. And honestly, Harris won that because Trump is oh my God, yeah, everyone goes to my rallies. It's just
But my thing is my thing has always been yes, let Trump beat himself, but his supporters aren't logical, and they don't they don't see the contradictions what he's saying. So it's not worth to me spending all that energy. Like, yes, maybe point it out here and there, but like that's why I think Harris did a better job than maybe Hillary did. You're right, back in the day, because Hillary's issue was, yes, she talked about some policies, but her issue was she kept being like, look how racist he is, look how sexist he is, and it's like,
well, then
the people voting for him don't care if they even notice that.
Puns too, like, oh, Trump up, trickle down, or like, oh,
yeah,
thank
it was
God
just
we don't
awful.
have
She's not a
Donald
great debater.
running the laws in this country, you know, all that kind of bullshit. Like, and she just got set up every time, and that's why I think that's what I'm saying. You got to call Donald Trump fat. You got to call him stupid. You got to call. That's why I was a little confused.
I don't agree. I think you just got to say your policies, what you're doing, and let him be the weird, crazy person, because then you're gonna look a little bit more sane.
What do you mean? You agreed with me not too long ago about that. Like when Joe Biden and Donald Trump were debating, you were like, "Yeah, Joe Biden needs to attack Trump more."
I say he should because it's funny for me, but I'm saying if you're actually trying to win a swing voter, like I'm saying if you're like, that's the goal of these debates, is the idea, right? Is to get the swing voter, the guy who's on the fence. You're not going to get the guy on the fence if you're just belittling each other. People hate that. If I remember correctly, in 2020, people didn't like that about the debates, that it just turned into a shouting match, right? That's why you have the muted mics and stuff. I think if you stick to the policies and let Trump be crazy and racist, yes, the people who already know that will look at that and be like, yeah, I hate him.
But that's what I'm saying.
But the people who don't care about that won't feel moved unless you actually talk about policy.
The Hillary and Donald Trump, Hillary did play that game. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, Hillary literally played that game like, oh, yeah, just let him speak. Let him do what he wants. And that's what I think. The more Donald Trump speaks, the more people like fucking go unhinged. That's what I'm trying to say, is that like you need to play what Donald Trump is playing on you. You got to play the same game. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think that's worked in the past. Because I think that's what Hillary did. Hillary didn't do.
No. I think it was the opposite. Hillary did not play that game. She made it seem like, oh yeah, we're gonna be bipartisan. We're gonna do this and that, and like, you know, she did the Trump up, trickle down. Like, she wasn't good at what Donald Trump.
Oh yeah,
did.
I think there's a way to execute a certain way. But the thing is, she was attacking Trump.
Kamala did a good job. Kamala did a good job last debate with baiting him into things. That's what I think. I mean, yeah, we didn't actually get to learn anything what Kamala's going to do.
I said yes. I say I agree that maybe she won the debate because of that. But I'm saying what the goal of the debate is. That I'm saying is two different things. There's winning the debate, and then there's what is the goal of the debate, which is their goal of the debate is to get the swing voter.
This is what,
because you're not gonna people who are gonna vote Democrats are gonna vote Democrat already. They don't need to see anything in the debate outside of.
But debates are stupid because like the whole thing is like, you should talk about policy when you're on the news. You should talk about policies when you have town halls. You should talk about policies when you're at the DNC. And Kamala didn't do any of that. That's what I'm saying. The debates are for when you're fighting against the candidate. That's what I think debates are for. So you're trying to say this, and that, and that's what it's kind of annoying. It's because like you want to hear policy. You want to hear policy, but they're too busy fighting each other. But that's what I'm saying. Get to the policy first. You know, like tell it at the DNC. Why didn't she talk about policy at the DNC?
More people watch the debates, though, I think, than the DNC, though. That's why I think it's important to say what you're going to do. That's what I'm saying. There's a way to win a debate for what we're doing, where we're talking about, you know, commentary. We're more politically involved. I'm saying for the average swing voter, the person who's like, yeah, you know what, I voted, even if like the person who's like, maybe I voted for Biden in 2020 and I don't really want to vote Democrat again because I'm actually more right-leaning, you know, I don't really like Harris, you know, let me watch this VP debate. And if Walz was being an asshole or something in this debate, that person probably wouldn't vote, or they might be like, you know what, Vance seemed kind of cool.
You can say the same thing about Kamala and Donald Trump too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying is that to get the swing voter, there's a certain balance of attacking your opponent, but more so just focusing on policy. And Trump is just an outlier when it comes to these things, because
and I'm not saying
Trump plays his own game and his own rules.
Just like Donald Trump. I'm not saying be like exactly like Donald Trump. I'm just saying you have to like attack him more. And I think that's what the Democratic Party, they're so weak at attacking.
I think they attack him too much. I think they've already do that, and I think they've tried that.
Well, they say it in a way, it's just like, because they say it in a way like, oh, like, yeah, like he's a threat to democracy, this and that. I think that's probably the only thing that I hear. Like, I don't think they ever
I
like
feel like
talk about.
they've done the whole he's racist, sexist, whatever before plenty of times. So yeah, I think what you're saying is you want them to attack him differently, but be offensive. Is that what you think would work?
I think, yeah, they have to be more offensive. I think that's why I say the Democrats are being so like, oh, let's have a bipartisan deal. Let's have this. Let's have that. Like,
because I think the swing voters want that. You know what I mean? They're the ones.
But that's
for
why
us, we think that's stupid. But
oh, of course, because like the Democrat Party looks so fucking weak when they're like, oh yeah, like we're gonna have to like work with the Republicans and we're gonna get a border deal and this and that, and like it just doesn't look good on them. It just doesn't. And that's why Democrats don't get the votes, is because they don't have that strong mentality that the Republicans do. What you said during the debate, like Republicans, they're very strong when it comes down to what they believe, right? They don't like, but that's what I'm saying. The Democrats are just like, oh, okay, yeah, well, let's just cave in. You know, let's become more right now. Yeah. Like, and I hate that. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree.
That's like literally like, you're attacking this person. Like, attack him. Like, this is the party that like wants, talking about 9-month abortion and fucking, you know, let's ban books and let's, you know, have guns.
Well, yeah. Well, that's my thing is you can't use the threat of democracy as a reasoning and then be like nice with them. I agree.
There was times in this
it's a weird message
debate,
when you don't do that.
There was times in this debate where we said in the middle of the debate, like, yeah, Tim Walz could have said something there, like, oh, but you didn't agree with that not too long ago. I'm saying in an offensive way where you're just like, you're basically pointing out their lies, you know, and that's what Kamala,
I think you can do that.
Kamala kind of did it. She kind of did it last time. She probably could have done it more in the second half. She did it in the first half, but she did like kind of calm down at the second half. But Joe Biden couldn't do it at all. You know, I mean, because he's old.
I think you need to do a balance of it. But I think the main thing your goal should be is policies, because if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure it was in 2020. I remember seeing people even who were like, you know, hated Trump. They're like, I just found it annoying that like they were just going back and forth, calling each other whatever. You know, and people hated that. People felt like, wow, this is like
it was crazy.
They're like, this is a metaphor for how I feel about where our country's going. Like, oh, we just all yell at each other, no one listens.
But I mean, so Donald Trump was mostly responsible for that. It wasn't
right.
Joe
No,
Biden.
I agree. But I think Joe Biden played too much into it. I think you got to have a balance where, yes, I'm not saying the whole debate you just do like policy only. Like, yes, you should defend your record or call the other guy maybe not stupid. I mean, I just think it'd be funny to say it, but I know that would hurt you. Let's be real, because Americans can't deal with that for whatever reason of a candidate calling another candidate stupid or like, yeah, he's an enemy. Like, those, I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying I'm saying for the sake of, I'm just putting the context of why I think the debates have been like this from the Democrat point of view and the Republican point of view for the Vance one. The Democrats don't want to be divisive in any capacity, even if that means letting Trump say something. And I always think that's probably your best bet. And I think
that's how Hillary lost the election too, because she wasn't divisive. I don't think. I think she was just
No, I think she was divisive by just being like, no, Trump's an idiot. Trump's, you know, sexist, whatever. And then, well, America wasn't quote unquote divisive at that point.
Well, it also comes down that Hillary's record wasn't the best either. So
yeah, she just sucks. So like, that's part of the problem. But
if Bernie Sanders was up there, it would have been
and I think if let's say Bernie, 2016, let's say it was Bernie would have focused on policies. He would have focused on Medicare for all.
And that's what
he would maybe bring up Trump being sexist, but it would be one time. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be like, I feel like if I remember from Hillary, it felt like she was always being like, look how crazy he is. No one's going to vote for that. As opposed like feeling like she already had it. To me, like, I get like Americans don't have good media literacy.
Bernie should have won in 2020 as well.
Yeah, I get like, Americans don't have good media literacy. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like it isn't worth it to try to convince people someone's racist or whatever. The people who are smart enough will figure that out. And I think I can't believe I'm getting Americans credit, but I think Americans in general typically, at least the voters, typically know right and wrong, but some just don't care. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Some of them don't care.
I get it.
So, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I was saying, where I'm like, I think it's smart that, like, I think Walz had the advantage going into this. And yes, I think Vance got a little bit more than you would like. But Walz, you know, like I said, he didn't have to do anything crazy to just get what he needs to do done.
Well,
yes, I think he could have been better.
The votes are in their favor. I totally get
yes,
it.
he
Like,
could have been better. Maybe having one zinger in there, because I don't think there's any big clippable moment in this debate. Compared to what you would see in a Trump, let's say Biden debate, where would you shut up, man? You know what I mean?
Well,
like that goes viral. You're not going to get anything viral from this, I don't think.
But that's what I'm saying. We're so used to this norm of Donald Trump, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we almost forgot on what it was like to have a Mitt Romney or Obama.
Yeah, that's what this felt like for me. It was like a Mitt Romney Obama debate. That's a good.
Where they're just like,
comparison.
yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, like we're
because Mitt Romney very much was I disagree with Obama, but I don't hate him. I don't think he's
even
evil.
In that third debate with Obama and Mitt Romney, they were like, pretty much Mitt Romney agreed with everything Obama said, like literally. Like, except for the Navy. I think he was like, oh, yeah, the Navy has not been the same since 1917 or something like that. But, like, everything else, like, oh, yeah, I agree with the economic plan. Oh, I agree with this. And it's like
I don't remember
that's what I'm trying to say. The third debate. Do you remember the third debate?
I mean, it's been a year since I watched it, but it's probably closer than a lot of other people have watched it, to be fair.
For example, but I'm just saying, like...
Well, no, I just think it was a different time, and Trump is an outlier. That's definitely the key thing here. Is Trump is an outlier. The rules of a debate work differently for him because.
Well, that's why I'm very nervous of the future we're coming to, because as soon as Donald Trump leaves the politicals, or he dies or whatever, we have this power vacuum of these MAGA Republicans. You know what I'm saying? Is it going to be Vivek? Ron DeSantis? Is it going to be Tim Scott? Whatever.
I think it's going to be someone we don't know yet, unfortunately.
But that's what I'm saying, and that's why I'm a little nervous like that. We're going to have a literal fascist.
Well, I'm okay with Tim Scott fucking running because he ain't going to do jack shit.
Well, I'm just giving off candidates that are in the party.
No, I know
what I'm saying.
I think that's the one benefit, though, is the fact that all the people you named aren't strong, like, needle movers, luckily.
But that's what I'm saying. Vivek is like a perfect example of a young MAGA Republican. And that guy looks scary, dude. Like, literally, I'm saying, like, his policies are scary. Very, like, talking about, like, oh, we should bomb Mexico. We should do this. We should do, it's like.
Yeah, he was more open about his, like, authoritarianism.
More open than Donald Trump. That's what I'm saying, what we're getting ourselves into. Yeah. And I think, and then when the Democrats are just like, oh yeah, like we're gonna go more right so we can get Republican voters. Like,
we'll get the swing voters supposedly. I don't think that's has worked. I think they think it works because Biden's got the most votes, but I think that was more of a people just don't like Trump and they hated COVID. I still stand by this election. I still think this election will probably have a low turnout. But it doesn't mean like Kamala won't win. I think that slightly benefits Trump if it's a low turnout. You think it'll be a low
turnout? I think a lot of young voters are going to vote. To be honest, but they're not going to vote for Kamala.
I mean, it's not
going
to be 2020 levels. I think it'll be better than 2016, but maybe not by much. Because I think a lot of people still won't like Harris because she's a woman.
Well, and also everything that's going on right now.
I think a lot more people are going to be politically disinterested. That's why I think it'll be something like 2016, because like everyone doesn't really yes, I agree.
So you're predicting Donald Trump to win then?
No, I'm saying it benefits Trump the less people turn out, but I don't know.
I disagree. I think a lot.
I don't know. Maybe I could be disconnected from.
Because 2016 was different though. Like, that's what I'm saying. Clinton had so much shit on her. And then also, like, Donald Trump just ran a good campaign and she didn't. That was it.
Donald didn't really run a great campaign. I think Hillary just ran a really god-awful campaign where she thought she had it in the bag, so she was just kind of lazy with it. And then 2020 was just like anybody could have been the Democratic candidate. A fucking dog could have been, and it would have probably beat Trump. Like, yes, Trump got the most votes for a losing president, and that's
Joe Biden still barely won that. To be completely honest, it should have been a fucking landslide. But of course,
technically, it was right with the voter count. But yeah, with electoral college, yeah, it was a joke that it was that close. But the only issue I have with 2020 is concerning is talking about voter turnout is that
it was a rigged election.
That was rigged. No, that like Trump, still got a lot of votes, more than he got in 2016, and lost.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll get that same amount again. I think what's going to be the hardest thing for him is how many Republican voters.
January 6th didn't happen.
Too. Right. I don't know how many Republican voters will see Trump as a criminal. You know what I mean? I think that could affect him. But I could see a number, I think easily in between above his 2016 numbers, but below his 2020. Yeah. Honestly, but the question is, how much can Kamala get people to vote in specifically the swing states? Because I think the reason it'll be down is that people, like, I think a lot of people will be like, I'm just so tired of Trump and I don't like Harris either. I'm kind of just done. I don't know how many people that is, but I feel like it's going to be a lot more than we think. So, but we'll see. I mean, there is mail-in ballots this time around too, compared to 2016, so that might help. But
I see a lot of people going for the Kamala train right now. So, I mean,
well, because you're in liberal networks, I'm in the real.
But I'm even in the real Nevada too, a big swing state. Nevada too, a big swing state. Like, they literally held up a statue. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, of a naked Donald Trump on I-15.
That's weird.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, Las Vegas doesn't even like fucking Donald Trump. That's what I'm saying. Even the swing states don't like Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, Donald Trump's unpopular, but I still think he'll have, like I said, more votes in 2016. But it's not. I'm not worried about. I guess I'm worried about how much votes he'll get, but this sounds so stupid. But I'm saying I think it's Harris's goal to convince people to vote versus Trump. I think has his floor is low and his ceiling isn't very high anymore that it used to be.
Okay, I'm gonna predict that it's gonna be a very close election.
I think sure. No, it's gonna be close. I'm just saying the turnout's gonna be low compared to
I disagree. I think the turnout's gonna be a lot bigger than you think. Because honestly, after 2020,
don't worry, we have fantasy points on the line to bet what the number is. So I guess as we get closer, we'll know.
I have a game plan. But I'm just saying, I think Kamala's gonna win, but she's gonna win by a very, very close margin. I don't think she's gonna break 300.
It's Harris's election to lose versus needing to beat Trump. To me, it's more what I'm trying to say is, I think it doesn't really matter what Trump gets because it's beatable no matter what the number is, whether it's the ceiling or the floor. The issue is winning the swing states. It always has been against him because let's be real, if we didn't have an electoral college, Trump would have lost twice in a row at this point by a lot. Sure. Because the differences are millions. We're talking about millions of voters, and these are people who care. And if I remember correctly, I think it was almost 10 million more difference for.
Yeah, Hillary literally won by a lot.
By a couple million. But Biden won by almost 10 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 81 million to 70 or something
like
that.
Right, and it's the fact that it was still close because our electoral college is broken. But what am I saying here? But no, yeah. So to me, it's a matter of, can Harris convince enough people to vote? Whether that's people like me, or to my to this far left, in the middle.
I think the middle voters are going to surprise you. I think young voters.
No, I think younger voters are going to vote, but I don't know. Once again, I don't know. I think they
might not vote for Harris or Trump. You might see a big push on independent, on Green Party or whatever.
I think more people are likely not to vote than vote for a third party, in my opinion. I mean that's always true, right? 1/3 of the country almost every time doesn't vote. So, I don't know. I think it'll be closer to the 2012 election is where I'm putting it at, which was more than 2016, but not compared to what Obama got his first was a huge drop off. And that's what I'm expecting. I don't think we'll see 2020 numbers again for a long time. That's what I'm saying. I think it'll be more than 2016, but I wouldn't expect anything close to 2020. That's why I'm going to say 2012 is probably the best comparison.
Clip it.
Because I think a lot of people in 2012 were yeah, I like Obama and Mitt Romney kind of is whatever. I'm just not going to vote. And then the people who love Obama came out and knocked on enough doors and got him through the finish line, and Mitt Romney just wasn't moving the needle. And I think that's where Trump is at with Republicans at this point. At least I hope so.
I hope it's worse.
Yeah.
I mean,
obviously the less is better, but I don't know. That's kind of how I see it, where I'm yeah, it's a matter of, at this point, it's not Harris's to lose because I don't think she's necessarily leading. But I think Trump, like I said, his ceiling is very beatable if you campaign well enough And in my opinion, my thing I have issue with Kamala is obviously Palestine, me personally. But what I'm like for the average American, I think the issue with Kamala and Biden's, in retrospect, Biden's policies at this point is that I think they're going to be. They think that they can get more of the middle swing voter because they're doing like the border bill, which I don't think a lot of Americans care about as much. Even though they say, "Oh, the 60% polls," you could convince 50% of Americans to believe anything. You know what I mean? Really. So like, I don't really care what the polls say on that because 89% of people wanted Medicare for all at one point. At one point, only 30% or whatever, 30% Americans liked Black Lives Matter, and then it switched to 80% after George Floyd. You know what I mean? Like that is a pendulum that you can swing depending on certain
Could
circumstances.
you imagine?
So to me, it's like I'm not worried about that number, but yeah, I just think it's like I think they're buying in to what Joe Biden saw, or what the Joe Biden campaign thinks they saw, and I think, like I said, I don't think they convinced the middle ground voters to vote. It was more so they just didn't want Trump and they wanted a different COVID
But could you imagine if student loan debt got canceled or they got to a 15 minimum wage?
That's where I'm getting to.
And then if Israel and Palestine, they ended the war there, or they ended the war in Ukraine and Russia, could you imagine the landslide they could have? Well, that's what I'm saying.
But then I agree with you. That's where I was getting to.
But the donors, doing that. But the donors and all this lobbying and all this crap that the Democrat Party has been destroyed by, because we have people like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema and all these dumbasses, fighting for corporate interests. That's what makes the Democrat Party so fucking weak, is because they literally get lobbied by all these corporations.
No, I think they would get more interest if they actually did some progressive stuff, really. But the thing is, I think they really still believe that they're getting the middle ground voter. Maybe they are. Maybe they made the middle ground voter or the swing voter, right, doesn't like Trump enough. They'll vote for Harris again. But I'm also worried that even if that works, that for the next election, they think they can do
they're going to get crushed next election.
Because
they're going to get crushed.
Because they will just do the bare minimum. The Democrats are always trying to find the balance of doing the bare minimum at best for your vote. And they promise... or they'll use the fear of Republicans for your vote, right? Where it's like they're going to take away your abortion rights, even though abortion rights have been taken away under Biden. Like, even though I know that's not a fair thing because the Supreme Court isn't, involved like that. Even though Biden could pack the court, so I'll come back. I'll actually backtrack that a little bit. But for the average American, that's how they think. They look at the gas price, they associate that with the president. That's not fair, but that's how it works. You know what I mean? So like. To me, that's what the Democrats do wrong, is that they focus so much on being the fear of the Republicans instead of actually just doing things and hoping, because I don't think they've really tried that, because they don't want to, like you said, because they're lobbied and, and whatnot. They're secretly all conservatives that just are okay with gay marriage. That's all it is,
All right, so now
but if they actually wanted to win, yes. Free Palestine. Let's get a ceasefire on that. Let's get rid of student loan debt.
But they're never going to do that.
Let's get rid of student loan debt. Let's raise the minimum wage. Let's.
And that's what I was really hoping Kamala would have done, and she didn't. So
yeah, but I'm also not surprised, because I don't know. I feel like I've seen this song and dance before, so it's like that's why this election is close. But
what we're gonna do now is watch the Pirates of the Caribbean. We're gonna watch the first movie right now.
Right now. No.
Right now.
No. Is there any final thoughts here as we kind of wrap up?
No, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. I kind of saw this coming in a way, but I also didn't, because I thought it was gonna be more extreme, because I thought the parties were more extreme, but I guess not. So they look like they're gonna go have a beer after work. And
I mean, they do already, so.
I mean, it's just frustrating to see that, and just to see that they're so bipartisan, and when both parties are just terrible. I mean, a human life. I mean, one's committing a genocide and the other one wants to fucking literally deport millions of fucking immigrants.
The lesser of two evils, man. Lesser of two evils. Good stream, boys. Excited for the election stream. Yeah. I took off for work for it. Okay, so
Oh boy,
show up.
That means a lot.
Yeah, he did. No, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's lesser of two evils. The problem is you're gonna still always get evil, and that's why I've been last couple years really coming to this conclusion that.
But they should have like a third party. They really should. They should have a third party.
I think we need to start realizing electoral politics. This is a whole other conversation. Maybe we can save for the debate or the election night stream.
That's what I'm saying. We have debates right now as we're talking. We literally just had a debate. That's what I'm saying. Like you just give us a topic.
Naturally. I don't want to necessarily spin a wheel and be like, okay.
Like we literally had a debate about January 6th the other night, like for a good like 10 minutes, and so that's what I'm saying.
Well,
we could debate about this stuff. Yeah, we might get a little heated.
I'll save one of them, which will be why I think we need to stop, focusing so much energy on electoral politics, as I did a whole stream on electoral politics here. I'm contradicting myself.
But we have to debate something that we actually both disagree on. Like, obviously, I agree that...
I think we disagree on that, personally. But,
on electoral college?
The electoralism in general. Like, the system we currently have, that it's workable.
Okay, I would love to have the popular vote as
I'm not talking about the electoral college. I'm talking about the whole thing. The idea of that the only time you should participate in politics is every 4 years, and thinking that will save us or bring us to a better world. That's what I'm talking about. And I think that we need to start.
I have to go in depth with that because I don't know what you mean, but
electoralism, the word means the participating in an election like this, a national election, and no different than like Labor Party.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay,
I'm saying like participating. Like, yes, we spend a lot of time on it, but the reason I do it is because I'm trying to bring awareness to show you how I think broken it is. And I think we should.
And you don't think I do the same thing at work and stuff like that? Like I say, like when I hear people like, "Oh my God, Kamala this," or like Donald this, and I'm like, there's literally the same.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You mentioned a third party. I was just saying that's a conversation we could have where I'm like, I don't think even a third party would save us, because I don't think electoralism politics.
Well, I'm just saying,
works.
Like, you're thinking out of the absolutes. Like, obviously, I'm thinking about the minor, like, decision that you could do in American politics right now, because at the end of the day, we can't just go straight to your point where it's like, oh yeah, we should do this exactly. No, because Americans would disagree with that. I feel like you're nudging. You're starting to chop down a tree, and like a little chips go off in this. That's what I'm saying. If you want to have like this communist revolution or an anarchist revolution, it's going to take time. Things don't just happen.
Well, we can
just
talk
like
about that. I think.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
it's a long combo. It's a long combo.
I have to pee. So let's start finishing this up.
David asks, when does election stream start? Like I said, my goal is to have it start no later than an hour before the first polls close on the East Coast. So that would probably be usually I think they close at 7 Eastern is I think the earliest, and I think that's like Maine or something like that. So probably 6 o'clock.
So it's a late stream. It's not a 12-hour stream. I thought it was gonna be like an all-day.
Well, it might be, because it might be for Mountain Time. It might be close to. It won't be 12 hours, but it's gonna be. So like let's say 6 o'clock Eastern is probably my guess is the goal. I'd like to get on at 5, but it really depends on how.
When does the election start?
Well, that's what I'm saying is usually the first polling stations close at 7 o'clock Eastern. Some close at 8 or 9.
So so around 5 o'clock your time. Okay, so
yeah. What's up, Ryro? You're just catching the end of the stream.
Yeah, it's literally the end of the stream.
You can watch the VOD though.
Yeah, I'm just excited for Bryn's cake. That sounds like a really nice cake.
She's making like a birthday election night cake, so it's gonna be exciting.
Good.
We get to eat it on stream.
I want to see a giant face of Kamala on my cake.
I don't know if she'll do that. We'll see. I didn't give her any parameters. Debate was.
I'm a big cookie cake fan.
Debate was fine. It was cool. I think it kind of like I said, it's kind of back to like the normal debates of we compare it to Mitt Romney versus Obama era of debates. But
they love each other. Tim Walz and JD Vance, they love each other. Secret down.
They're at Applebee's right now.
They're having
the
$1
margaritas.
Hey, I had the $1 margaritas. My God, that almost made me puke.
Halloween one. I saw an ad for it.
We should go to Applebee's.
I really don't want to go to Applebee's. That's like the last place I want to go to eat or drink.
Wait, so you'd rather go to the border than go to Applebee's?
Yes. I think a water from an ICE agent somehow will taste better than a margarita that's $1.
Shut the fuck up. Shut up. It's so annoying.
Oh my god.
But yeah. See, love cookie cake. See, thank you, Bryn. Cookie cake. I just gave you a clue.
Stream at Applebee's, no shot. No.
Yes.
We get kicked out, 1, and then 2, or get in a fight because I feel like low key conservatives be hanging out at Applebee's.
Well, because you're living in Aurora, Colorado. It's like literally a battleground state right now for Venezuela in America. So.
Right. Well, there's no Applebee's here actually. The Applebee's have all been taken over by Venezuelan gangs. It's true. Did you cover the fireworks? Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Middle East.
Yeah, we did.
Terrible.
Yeah, but
we're literally we're gonna have a war with fucking Iran.
See, that's another thing that I think could hurt. I think the average American maybe doesn't pay attention to Palestine stuff, but if U.S. troops go anywhere close to the Middle East, that will 100% tank Kamala Harris and Walz for sure. Because that's whole Trump's thing, and for some reason people believe
Russia's backing Lebanon too, so this could come into a more. Well, that's what I'm saying. It could come into a more global affair. It's going to be like the Cold War. I feel like, at this point, because aren't we already in the Cold War?
We're always in a Cold War, baby. Come on now.
Proxy wars everywhere.
Us versus them. Let's go, USA.
But all right, I'm gonna get going here. Thank you for having me. We definitely gotta plan the fantasy.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll have a stream before that or not. We'll see. I kind of like how we've been doing at least once a month or so.
I don't know. Maybe we might have a third. We might have a third debate between Kamala and Donald Trump.
Well, let's see. Well, let's wait a couple weeks. Maybe we have another just kind of catch up stream, and then maybe we have a draft night.
Yeah, let's plan for October. I don't know, like in the last couple of weeks of October.
I think if we have 2 more streams to help promote, the election night thing, that'd be good. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yep, no problem. And thanks everyone watching who watched live. We stayed up late, especially those on the East Coast and in Europe and stuff.
JD Vance would say, "Christ have mercy."
Christ have mercy. What a stream.
That's the new one. That's the new one here.
Yeah, and anyone who's watching the VOD on Twitch or YouTube, appreciate ya. But yeah, tune in for more soon.
Yes.